My name is Erica Lorraine Spencer, and I remain subject to state surveillance and terrorism by the state of California that is operating a malicious targeting system, which is referred to as federal group stalking and monitoring via communication devices. And it is in violation of federal stalking statute 18 U.S.C. sections 2261A subsections 1 and 2. My website and podcast serve the public good by publishing evidence of the public entity's ceaseless engagement in a pattern of conduct intended to stalk and monitor via communication devices, surveil, harass, and terrorize an American citizen in concert with the people of the state of California. Documentation serves the lawful purposes of wide exposure, federal prosecution, and influencing federal legislation with policies specifically designed to punish, dismantle, and disincentivize an unprecedented targeting system by a public entity that acts in concert with the people of the state in order to criminally place under surveillance and terrorize an American citizen, which is a matter of public corruption in the state of California. Notice: intellectual property theft is particularly egregious and equally unlawful where the sole inventor and creator of the intellectual property is the targeted individual. Erica Lorraine Spencer, subject to the unconstitutional and inhumane government system of gang stalking, otherwise referred to as federal group stalking and monitoring via communication devices, because of which the intellectual property created by the targeted individual, who is, in fact, Erica Lorraine Spencer, as the intellectual property also proves, serves to establish via evidence and expose the existence of criminal surveillance and thus an inherent threat posed by the U.S. government and the civilian population sharing engagement in the unlawful system. Such evidence that includes all of the content created by Erica Lorraine Spencer, images, videos, audio, etc., belongs solely and entirely to Erica Lorraine Spencer only and is necessarily published online in order to protect her life, safety, and liberty as the targeted individual, who is also the intellectual property owner, no less protected from theft procured through targeting by a public entity. Theft of any intellectual property belonging to Erica Lorraine Spencer, which is necessarily committed while she, being both creator and inventor, remains oppressed by the public entity via criminal surveillance, is a criminal and inhumane means of infringement under all circumstances and not protected nor enforceable pursuant to any invalid or fraudulent acts of copyright, trademarks, patents, etc., including as it pertains to any ideas associated with or generated from the intellectual property or the intellectual property owner, Erica Lorraine Spencer, whether creative, business, or otherwise, nor does the intellectual property owner consent to any such means of infringement and theft. Currently, by the way, 11:46 a.m. This is just documentation regarding what the evidence already establishes about the state of California. A targeting entity that's maintaining criminal surveillance, a demon-possessed entity full of the Nephilim that make up this corrupt government that's maintaining criminal surveillance and practicing a satanic pattern of conduct with regard to targeting while they maintain an organized system regarding murder and kidnapping, while that government that is made up of demon-possessed corrupt actors are acting with a demon-possessed population. This is the Nephilim, in other words, engaging in what is public corruption. That's what the law defines this corrupt population and this corrupt government that are sharing in a criminal system together is defined by. The entity is engaged in what is sexual violence. And Ontario Airport Inn at 1801 East G Street represents the people of the state. Demons that are gang stalking, proven by the supernatural. If you saw the evidence on November 1st, 2025, the fake sun is over me at 7:54 a.m. at 9:18 a.m. over the same building that I'm capturing it at 5:11 p.m. It's over the same building, meaning it did not move, meaning these are all, first of all, demons. And this is understanding the harm and the threat with regard to exposing enemies in this country, domestic enemies who are pedophiles, they're rapists, they're psychopaths who engage in stalking. They are perverts that derive pleasure from sexually violating your privacy, while even now you're witnessing the ongoing exposure of the Nephilim, and that is simultaneously the ongoing exposure of corruption by the government that is maintaining never before proven surveillance and speaking to you about regarding what is the definition, what is monitoring, and who's doing it. While the demons are engaging in that, they are witnessing their exposure and they are still practicing what it is their nature to do, engaging in sexual violence. And these are the demons that are surrounding my room on all 3 floors. So I'm on the 2nd floor, which I'm intentionally placed there. Demons under me, demons above me, and demons all around me with regard to the hotel room building where the fake sun is, as a matter of documentation, where I'm going to prosecute this company, which is a prosecution of the state. The entity kept a fake sun, which is directly rebutting that the natural environment is in Florida, while there is a fake sun remaining over Ontario Airport and the building that I'm inside of, moreover, where demons are engaged in what is an ongoing pattern of harassing and targeting me, while they're also then keeping the evidence of them keeping my vagina under surveillance, that is harassing me with amplified noise, pacing like psychopaths that are obsessively stalking me. That's all you're doing. That's all you're doing under the fake sun. You can claim that you planned because the entity is going to do that, but you're doing it under the fake sun. And you did it with knowledge that the fake sun is there because you're a demon, gang stalking, vagina monitoring sex offender that conspires murder with the government. This is what's relevant to what's happening right now. The entity has a fake sun, and the entity derives pleasure from monitoring women that are in the nude. And this is exposing what is a company that's a sex offender, a company that's a co-conspirator of murder, a company that's made up of psychopaths who need to be exposed by name, and a company that needs to be exposed with regard to its reputation and its actual harm to the public, and the criminal conduct that that company is facilitating, aiding, and hosting, sharing in, while they are making money off of criminal surveillance, gang stalking, conspiracy to murder, sexual violence that is actually underway by an innkeeper, not maintaining hotel rooms for a price. All right, the entity is doing that in the specific environment. So this is the entity that is, again, made up of immigrants that are going to be deported, made up of sex offenders that are going to be prosecuted, made up of co-conspirators of murder that are going to federal prison. The entity is engaging in this, and they're doing so with knowledge, keeping under surveillance. Again, a psychopath's not thinking about all the evidence that surrounds them. They're acting in the moment. They cannot resist the ongoing temptation to monitor when they know that my vagina is exposed in the shower, and that's the entity that's maintaining intentional activity creation, and it's all intentional under the fake sun. You are not engaging in what is walking in and out of a hotel room. You don't even have any right to be there under the law. You're going to be prosecuted. Moreover, you're breaking down psychopaths who are intellectually inept, and they're also legally unprepared, and they are defenseless in court. But the entity's engaging in what is, oh, well, I'm going in and out of my room. This is how the pattern of conduct is supposed to occur on or exist on the surface, appear on the surface, and that's only in the absence of evidence proving a whole comprehensive system of targeting somebody by demons who use the supernatural while they are engaging in what is a malicious means of trying to psychologically torture someone, and they're going to prison and they're going to be prosecuted for that. It's terrorism. All right, so a bunch of demons are stalking at Ontario Airport Inn, maintaining ongoing psychopathic means of a harassing environment shared by every other third-party innkeeper, such as Marriott Bonvoy, Wyndham, Hilton, where I'm documenting the same pattern of conduct, little mom-and-pop venues like Economy Inn, maintained moreover by immigrants that are engaging in terrorizing an American citizen and furtherance of murder with the government, and both angles of that criminal system is going to be met with federal prison and deportation. But the entity's engaging in this at what is Ontario Airport. And the entities doing so while they are psychopaths deriving pleasure from sexually violating together, sharing in the violation of privacy together as a population of demons. Demons that have access and custody to children. Demons that are engaging in what is public corruption in plain view. Demons that are providing what is more importantly a paper trail to prosecute every single last one. The entire airport Inn, every employee, every gang stalking patron. The business records of the venue are going to be used to prosecute the population sharing in that. Many of whom, some of whom I did document by license plate. It's on the Google Drive. It's also on the podcast, but it's more than that, and it is the prosecution of that same U.S. government. I'm documenting the ongoing terrorism and the conspiracy to murder me as I go from place to place. That's a significant of prosecuting and identifying, rather, the sex offender that's gang stalking in room number 180 and room number 180, and room number 178 and room 181, 182, the demon in room 178, 177, these demons that are monitoring vagina together, engaging in that while they then are checking in and out of hotel rooms, sharing in surveillance and furtherance of murder as a population. Okay, this is also speaking to what is necessarily changing the laws, because there's a whole maintenance of a malicious system regarding propaganda about what actual mental illness is. And the Nephilim are the evidence, the study providing what is actual mental illness, what is going to be included necessarily as a means of protecting the public and identifying the malice behind those that seek to present as a population. So that's meaning by numbers, everyone that's presenting in the same way, and that's supposed to be the standard for normalcy and for sanity, and it's not. A whole population is identified as mentally ill, psychopathic, antisocial. Okay, the entities engage in this, and they're doing so while it's always to their demise. The entities engage in the pattern of conduct in doing so with regard to the prosecution of the corrupt leaders in Ontario, with regard to the prosecution of managers, and it doesn't matter what their work schedule, they have all manner, oh, I wasn't there, I'm going to prosecute you. This is what they don't understand. The entities doing so as a population, you're traumatizing and harassing and terrorizing, sharing and violation. All of that pattern of conduct is happening at the Ontario Airport Inn. So you know everything that's incorporated in this violation, in this act of terrorism. You're doing that while you are aware also of that evidence, speaking to your mental illness. Moreover, you're doing it while you are acting as one that is acting in furtherance of murder, okay? Murdering that person that you are intentionally targeting. And that's exactly what the law sees you as when you're under the fake sun that's remaining over a hotel. Like I did my diligence to make sure you're surrounded with that evidence. It's remaining over the hotel room building from 9 a.m. until 5:11 p.m. You're going to be prosecuted. So, and that's speaking to the pattern of conduct that's shared by the U.S. government that are acting with a population of demons. This is the Nephilim that have been exposed spiritually as the demons that they are, and have been exposed legally with the criminals that they are, the terrorists, the enemies of the United States that they are. Okay, it's currently 11:54 a.m. This is an entity keeping my room filled with ongoing amplified boom, boom, boom. Remember, they're demons. So that's why light is shooting like a laser off of their cars when they're driving on the roads and the highways. That's why it's creating ongoing earthquake sensational activity when they're driving in the street and I'm on the bus bench that's secured to the sidewalk, that's not cracking, in the buildings that are not shaking, and it's not creating any impact when you're driving a little raggedy Honda Civic, or even when you're driving in an Amazon vehicle, or even when you're driving in a large truck. Okay, we're not driving around on plywood and on plastic. These are demons that seek to monitor you, sensational activity, audible activity, and light activity while they are stalking. This is the entity that's doing so in a hotel room, and that's an unprecedented basis of harassment, which you're going to prosecute for. It's federal level in furtherance of murdering you. And the entity's doing so under the guise of a business, which I'm going to drain. I'm going to drain, and I'm also going to prosecute their gang stalking employees, and any immigrants are being deported. This is P.O.C. It's 11:55 a.m. The entity does so looking forward to those results because they are keeping the federal prosecutor under surveillance. They're the ones engaging in more and more violence while I'm documenting. They're the ones engaging and increasing in their violence while they're being published on the internet. At the same time, you're looking forward to deportation. You're looking forward to prosecution. You're looking forward to exposure and public shame. You're looking forward to being placed in prison. Because that's exactly what your behavior is manifesting. Okay? Those are the mentally ill, however, but it's not mental illness with regard to ignorance or the inability to appreciate it. It's mental illness that's psychopathic. A psychopath, to their own detriment, continues harming what they are thinking delusionally that it's somebody else, and that's not the case when it's a federal prosecutor. When it's somebody that knows that you're a demon, and I also have the tangible evidence to prove the spiritual and the physical, to those that are ignorant so that they can both protect themselves and become aware of the spiritual realm and their need for Christ Jesus. That's what that's really about. It is currently 11:56 a.m. This is P.O.C.
Erica Lorraine Spencer here. The following is an audio version of video evidence that is captured for purposes of mass distribution, which is why I am capturing it and sharing it on the podcast for evidentiary purposes and also to reveal the wealth of documentation that extends beyond what it is that I document on podcasts. Much of the video and images will be published onto the YouTube channel, the P.O.C., and it is also shared on the Google Drive. Again, this is for purposes of revealing what I remain subject to, which is federal group stalking and monitoring. It is a demonic system of state surveillance that the government is practicing in concert with the people of the state. And it should be known and well understood that for the government to engage in federal group stalking and monitoring, this is a crime that is committed with a criminal purpose to threaten the life of an American citizen. This is to conspire to murder and or permanently kidnap an American citizen while engaging in a perpetual sex offense in concert with the people of the state. Alrighty, this is indeed a demon that's over here stalking in the path. He maintains loud noise the moment I start recording, and that's a demon crossing path. Same formula, which is satanic. This is exposing both criminal surveillance and demons that are engaged in a massive sex offense, which is inhumane with regard to the population that's sharing in a sex offense violation of privacy. The population shares in surveillance, so that population is keeping a woman under surveillance, stalking her together, engaged in what is gang violence. This is domestic terrorism, and it's the prosecution of that government. That's that fire department, police department, that sheriff's department, that city airport as it applies to the facts in Ontario. And this is the fake sun over the top of my head. The entity is maintaining this. I'm standing in front of rooms 128 to 142. I'm coming down off of this elevator right here. This is the lobby area in that direction. So this is the pattern of kind of where the entity has the fake sun 5 hours from now. This is the P.O.C. where the entity has a fake sun over me while I'm literally at the OVITT Family Community Library walking outside of the entrance. And that's how you're looking at that formula. That's recognition of a demon and also a malicious third party where they are ostensibly engaged in what is minding their business. Nobody's minding their business in this specific environment. And this is the formula to murder people and then defame them. That's why the entity is being deported, criminally prosecuted as terrorists, labeled as violent sex offenders, as an in concert with an entity, and co-conspirators of murder. P.O.C. It is currently 12:05 p.m. at 1801 East G Street. Thank you very much. What's your name again?
My name's Kimberly.
Kimball? Oh, thank you, Kimberly. I was like, say that's different. Okay, so this is the receipt and it shows balance zero. Okay, thank you very much. Have a good one. She didn't leave a deposit or anything? She doesn't? Okay, just want to make sure. Bye-bye. Oh, I thought you were talking to me. Sorry. You too.
Checking out.
Sorry?
Checking out. 127.
All right, this is gang stalking inside of the lobby. The entity sent gang stalking with a bunch of African-American females in the parking lot, and they're doing so while the entity sounds playing activity. So this is relevant positioning inside of the venue. You'll see the fake sun that moves to the lobby area. The employees are pacing out, and Kimberly and the demon that's adjacent to her on the second register. This is the business that's engaged in gang stalking. They're making money. They're sharing in the criminal pattern of conduct with the customers at the same time under the fake sun license 9HFE130. While the entity has what are black-faced demons, there is no race with regard to the demon possessed. These are spirits, and demonic spirits are inside of black people that also like to claim Black Lives Matter. And they're gang stalking with the gang stalking police. Those are the illusions that are presented to you when you're looking at the P.O.C. Okay, license plate 9SYF729 is a license plate of these gang stalking African American females. And they are stalking. You'll see the fake sun shining over me at the front lobby. Remember, I'm at this front lobby area at 7:54 in the morning. This is psychopathic behavior of insecure and mentally ill demons who are just black and with regard to their race. This is the same demon possession, and they're obsessed with me. These are homosexuals that are predators. They're obsessed with my vagina. They're obsessed with me, and this is how they're all stalking together. And you're not supposed to be aware of the environment. You're not supposed to be not supposed to be able to make any connection with what they're doing with you, and that's sharing and mental illness together. License 8NPH409 7GYE826 they're in images gang stalking with the employees. They're doing so together under the fake sun. License 9NRB103. License 9RLK521. This is P.O.C. And the entity is engaging in the gang stalking through the business of Ontario Airport Inn, but that's also what I'm documenting inside my hotel room. They're maintaining a venue as a third-party innkeeper, not as a legitimate hotel. When the entity is maintaining the elements of monitoring under the fake sun, you're going to be prosecuted under all circumstances. Oh, well, they were loud because they had a newborn baby. They're doing so under the fake sun, and all those facts are going to prosecute you. License 9MGF905, 9SMD905, 8PVV077, and all these demons are under a fake sun. That is proven by the maintenance of a fake sun, because it's not out over the OVITT Family Community Library at the same time. It's not over Bethel Congregation at 536 North Euclid Avenue.
not at the same time. And it's not going to stay here in any natural environment to be over in alignment to my hotel room, creating any sort of sunlight, because that's also impossible light at the adjacent property, RAMADA by Wyndham, that's also a gang stalking, corrupt third party, the people of the state, where every business is engaging in surveillance, where the demons, the Nephilim, are engaging in what is public corruption with the government. License 8PVV077 are sharing in criminal conduct, which Ontario Airport are sharing in. This is the pattern of conduct. This is P.O.C. This is psychopathic pacing and mental illness that's shared by a population. All right, the ratchets, license Edward Apple 6 Zebra, Edward Apple 6 Zebra Y96 or Edward Apple 62 Y96. That's a paper plate. Those are the African-American females that are obsessed with me, stalking. And they are equally obsessed with regard to white women, Latino women, Asian women. These are homosexual women that are obsessed with my vagina. They seek to stalk me in bathrooms on behalf of the government in furtherance of murdering me. They also like to consume my bodily fluids. MADMAR, stalking. The entity is doing so while the fake sun is then going to remove itself off the property, and it will not be anywhere near this hotel building, like I documented, exposing Jason Reed as a domestic terrorist leader, where the fake sun is over me in Montclair, California at 44090 Holt Avenue in Montclair, where that is speaking to the maintenance of a crime scene, just like Ontario Airport, sharing in a pattern of conduct proven through what is the inconsistent environment, which directly defies nature and science, the means whereby domestic terrorists are being exposed and prosecuted, deported, and put in prison. License 9TFZ994. It is currently 12:13 p.m. And this is the entity that goes through all of that in order to keep me under surveillance. This is an entity that thinks that, or has engaged in maintaining a system, okay, entering the P.O.C. and entering myself, Erica Lorraine Spencer. However, the system operates such that any ratchet with no edges, okay, with that is living off of government assistance, as long as they're gang stalking with that government, that's engaging in what is, and I don't want to state that only black people are government recipients. There's a lot of illusions out here as though black people are the ones consuming, and that's not the case at all. These are demons. Let me be clear on that. It's not even racial. It's not even racial. This racist country and racism, which is a demonic spirit, okay, you're getting to how this system of surveillance is maintained, and the entity is engaged in what is targeting, and they target specific colors, not because you're inherently inferior, but because the entity is maintaining a means whereby they can target those that are, for example, one that targeting me as a black woman, and you are supposed to, on the surface, judge me as the trash that is actually gang stalking, and me and this trash in the parking lot are not the same. This one is co-conspiring my murder, and I'm going to prosecute her for it. And wherever those bad weaves go, the federal law is going to follow them, especially while the government is murdering people behind their stalking conduct. 9ATT473. This is an entity that's engaged in that, and the evidence speaking to a fake sun that's remaining over my head on September 1st, just one example, when I'm walking from American Inn, not until after 11 a.m., and I'm still at the Euclid Avenue and G Street area, walking toward this direction, and I'm showing you what's over the top of my head as I exit the hotel room. It's over me at the lobby area where a population is together sharing and stalking. That's the entity that's demon-possessed, that's showing itself to be pathetic. That's the entity that's going to be overwhelmed by the military with regard to the inability to be trusted as a corrupt entity that murders people, targets them, sharing and surveilling them. This is the entity that's going to be overwhelmed by the military that's going to pour in. And the entity also that's going to be federally raided and prosecuted. And this is an entity that includes gang stalking gargoyles that you refer to as celebrities. They're light-slinging gargoyles, and you buy their tickets, and you go to their concerts, and they're these demons that are sharing in surveillance and know who I am and are obsessed with my vagina, obsessed with me in the same manner. These are just brokies that are right in relevant position to me, having nothing, and they're not getting anything, and anything that they've already acquired, it's exposing the fact that you're gang stalking me. Because first of all, number one, who are you, and how do you even know that I have money for you to profit from? That in and of itself is evidence corroborating what it is the P.O.C. proves surveillance. 9GSC 697. These are the mentally ill that are engaging in the criminal pattern of conduct, which is again speaking to what is their mental illness while they do it in front of everyone. The entity never thought that they would be exposed. Secondly, the entity never thought that it would be proven and that anyone would ever hear about it, because they murder people and they thought their magic was so potent, that it was so powerful, that they were so elite
that they were so influential that no one was ever going to hear, even when they're dealing with somebody with a legal skill set like me. And Satan lies to them, and Satan has them thinking that I'm not able to maintain all of my faculties to recognize what's going on when I see a psychopath. Like, I don't know what a psychopath is. The entity is engaged in targeting you, sharing in what is mental illness, and then has the audacity to defame your character. And that's supposed to be believable by who? The gang stalking judges in the courts. And affirmed and attested to by gang stalking medical professionals. All of this is of the Nephilim, all of it. And the P.O.C. is also providing evidence, giving you evidence proving everything that I've even stated, but that's how that system operates. That's why a fake son is over Arrowhead Regional Medical Center. That's why a fake son is over the Ranch Cucamonga Superior Court. That's why a fake son is over West Valley Detention Center. That's why the fake son is over me at the Ontario Police Department. That's why the fake son is over me while I am remaining at the amongst the people of the state, no matter whose house it is. And then you're looking at that analysis about what time. And then the entity is the one that forgets that the fake sun's over the hotel room that I stayed at on G Street, at 1801 East G Street. So when is the sun in a natural environment that's repeating the same orbiter on a daily basis, consistently, ever going to be in that position while it's sitting over Arrowhead Regional Medical Center, where I'm also stating that I've been kidnapped, that this entity is full of psychos that are stalking. And they're engaging in demonic behaviors, things such as what I had to provide a body of evidence to prove that it's actually happening, things like stalking with light, which mentally ill demons engage in of all races. Ratchets are not just black females with no edges. Ratchets are in all races. The demon-possessed do not have a race. The demon-possessed are mentally ill psychopaths. They do the bidding of Satan. They're demons. They're not even, this is the Nephilim. They have demonic spirits. It's essentially being like programmed robots, but it's not metal. They're flesh and blood. They're hollow on the inside. These are psychopaths. Obsessively stalking somebody that you don't even know. And a limited interest, so what, you're getting, what, $150 so you can pay part of your car note, and then you're still hustling to get to the next month, and that's why you're stalking somebody and further into murdering them? That's mentally ill behavior. You're sick. You have really serious issues. There's no amount of money, by the way, that should make it amenable for you to target someone in the way in which a population is proven to. And to go to the extent to use your airlines, you're using your planes of your airline company, you're using the grounds of a whole airport where people like Atif are engaged in what is criminal surveillance in the state of California? What country is he from, originally from, upon doing my research, associated with Dubai? And Dubai maintaining surveillance in the United States by virtue of immigrants like Atif being in this country, and a population of those that are coming and immigrating to the United States to share in surveillance, which is underway in other countries, not just the state of California, keeping American citizens that they intend to murder under surveillance. Other countries are very much engaged in this level of surveillance of all American citizens, including the genitalia of your children. Monitoring you, not just watching on cameras and keeping your devices. I mean, demonic spirits monitoring your physical movements while they have demons that are associated with other countries, which is nothing other than referring to a demographic. To give you a real world example, you've got demons from other countries that are engaging in domestic terrorism in the U.S., having positions in the government, associated with the government, like this terrorist Atif of the Ontario International Board, of the Ontario International Airport, the Ontario Board. And I believe he's associated with the Dubai International Airport. A history. Dallas-Fort Worth. They're engaged in monitoring in Dallas. When is it in that hot state? When is the sun? When it's over me at Ontario Airport N from 9:18 to 5:11 p.m.? When is it in Texas? In the natural environment? When is that? Are we all under the sun as the sky and no sky? Are you looking at an all yellow sky space? For the sun to be everywhere in every direction, all over everyone? Because that's not what I'm capturing on video. When I'm capturing the fake sun that's on the east side, I'm capturing the absence of the fake sun on the west side of my person, which is letting you know that the sun is not ubiquitous over everyone everywhere. It certainly isn't when it's hovering over the edge of a building that I'm looking at. Well, you can hold up a tall pole and touch it. because that's how hunkered down it is. This is where demons are gang stalking, and it's also letting you know about what's going on internationally when you have terrorists that the U.S. government welcomes in this country while we're being kept under surveillance by other countries, and then maintaining a narrative on the surface such that, oh, we're meeting with foreign leaders while we maintain, the U.S. maintains privacy and a constitution to protect our citizens, and we're some moral leader in that regard, but actually, the P.O.C. is proving that other countries are sharing and keeping us under surveillance. That's why they're also migrating to the U.S., keeping us under surveillance. With the knowledge of the U.S. government, they're fully sharing in that. Okay, Atif of the Ontario Airport Board, he is representing the population that's going to be deported. If he's not a natural-born citizen, if his wife isn't a natural-born citizen, or whatever he's with, whoever's connected to him, because you are summoning the federal government to everyone, not just that domestic terrorist. Everyone is suspect to deportation. Everyone. Okay? And that's just an example with regard to prosecuting. When I'm looking at gang stalking planes, when I'm at the hotel under the fake sun, amongst a bunch of demons that are gang stalking at all races, to use those sorts of resources, understand that this is a mentally ill population. And this is calling for what is a re-examination for what is actual mental illness and what needs to be incorporated with regard to recognizing mental illness that poses a threat to the public. That mental illness is inspiring criminal activity amongst critters that are right in front of your face. 9EYF 403, 8VWV 344. Okay, this is P.O.C. It's currently 12:22 p.m. where that fake sun is not going to be in any location, where I would be in the parking lot of 1801 East G Street. And that fake sun is on the west side of that same apartment building where it was at 9:18 in the morning yesterday. Even walking out at 12 p.m., 3 hours after 9 o'clock in the morning, the sun is not remaining idle like that. And it's also not going to be over the same person as I document that phenomenon. The environment is speaking to the fact that these are mentally ill. Number one, demons. Number two, stalkers. Number four, co-conspirators of murder. License plate, 9RFM179. And the entity is going to prison for this. They're putting Mike LORENZ in prison. They're putting Tracy Banks in prison. They're putting Jason Fields in prison. They're putting Eric Spencer in prison. They're putting Derek Williams in prison. They're putting the entity that's kidnapping Jason Knighton, Lester Keys, the kidnappers, demons like Vivanco, demons like Daisy, Sean Thrasher at the Ovitt Family Community Library, federal prison. They're putting themselves in prison while they're still obsessively stalking and doing so in the ways in which I'm documenting very diligently. Because this is the pattern of conduct that they were engaging in. License 8XED943, and that they're still engaging in. While they have the audacity to do it, and the whole world is now witnessing it. 9CVJ678, P.O.C. And this is gang stalking. Oh, you're being deported. The federal government has a jurisdiction to deport the entire immigrant population based on the threat, not because they're racist, not because they hate people that are from other countries and they don't like the color. No, it's because you're terrorists. It's because you're demons. It's because you're mentally ill. It's because you're predators. That's why you're being deported. All of you. CG27G53, I believe. P.O.C. It's 12:24 p.m. All right, that's the entity that's keeping a fake sun and maintaining a obvious, unscientific, illogical, asinine environment with regard to the absence of the sun being over the 1801 East G Street, Ontario Airport Inn, which is the case right now. So how do you have the sun over me yesterday at 5:11 p.m.? These are the questions that are serving to prosecute a malicious entity that thinks that as gang members, they established the facts, and then that's what you're going to be affected by. Because the government is engaging in that, the government's going to be subject to very severe consequences, and it includes federal prison. 9EMR112, 8ZAS901, 6RGD348. This is P.O.C. Following into the drive-thru of Wendy's, license plate. This is a psychopath, 9SPT288. Stalking, 8TGN088. Two lily white demons, gang stalking. Did you know that white people are stalking black people while they want you to believe that you're supposed to be lesser than them and they're stalking you? All right? Because there's no race amongst demons. They're psychopaths that are gang stalking. P.O.C.
Hey, you! I remember you, my love.
That's audible activity.
Hey, you.
She's gang stalking at the OVITT Family Community Library. The reason why she's coincidentally crossing path, there is no coincidence, because she's sharing in what is gang stalking me at the Wendy's. She's not a friend. She's engaged in audible activity and monitoring at the OVITT Family Community Library. And I will go ahead and get her license plate right now because I got her image inside of the OVITT where the entity keeps the fake sun after 5 p.m. License 6RGD348, and I've already documented this demon before. So she went inside of the OVITT Family Community Library to engage in the P.O.C. License 8PMJ826, stalking. All right, and you'll see the fake sun over me at the Wendy's. I'm gonna go, thank you. You'll see the fake sun over me at the Wendy's. That's how you know that this is somebody that's engaged in monitoring and is doing so under a scientific fact. And that's where you're getting to, again, a demon's facial expression, a demon's demeanor, they look bored, a demon's friendly conversation. It's the elements of monitoring, P.O.C. Your family that's gang stalking you, that's called malice, and it's mentally ill behavior, it's psychopathic. When they are plotting your murder and they're being friendly with regard to monitoring you and you're ignorant about it, okay? And even when you become aware of it, oh, they'll just kidnap you and state that you're mentally ill. That's where Mike LORENZ comes in. That's why they're going to prison. You're going to federal prison. It is currently 12:27 p.m. All right, and I documented that third party's license plate before, so all she did was go inside of the OVITT Family Community Library and sat next to me to engage in stalking me inside of the library. That's all she did because I've seen her license plate before. I documented her before. Anyway, it's currently 12:27 p.m.
Here's the entity that is indeed stalking, getting in alignment with my person. This is the type of terrorism that a TIF of the Ontario Board is accountable for, is going to be prosecuted for as a government that is targeting and furtherance of a pattern of clearly the pattern of conduct that a TIF is also going to be prosecuted for based on science in concept with a population that's not ignorantly targeting under a fake sun that's over me at 506 North Euclid Avenue, where Hardick is a gang stalking immigrant as well, sharing in that P.O.C. right inside of that Chevron, where the entity has a fake sun over me at 9 in the morning, where the Ontario police are sharing in a pattern of conduct by the same state of Ontario that's stalking in the path, where you're stalking with impossible light, appearing underneath a covered structure. You're a demon, not ignorantly under a fake sun. That, by the way, while it is over me at 1 o'clock, 1:02 p.m., where it's present at this address at 7 in the morning, which is what I documented on G Street at the venue that I just left, and where the sun will not deviate to go back to be over, and it's also not simultaneously remaining over 1801 East G Street. This is the same pattern of conduct, proven through what is an inconsistent environment. Proven through what is science, which is on the side of the targeted individual who's not hallucinating or imagining anything. The entity that defames your character does so in furtherance of kidnapping and murder. And that entity is a terrorist, an enemy of this country, and they're going to be prosecuted, targeted by federal law accordingly. And those that are engaging in gang stalking as immigrants, no matter what position, working at the gas station or being on the board of a gang stalking airport, deportation uniformly applies. This is P.O.C. It is currently 1:03 p.m. This demon stalker with impossible light, 8DYW590, walking in impossible light, that's appearing underneath the structure while the sun's remaining over the 1801 East G Street. That's how I was able to capture it at 5:11 p.m. yesterday. This is asininity. Okay, the asininity is practiced by the corrupt government that's exposed as maintaining by those that are even maintaining surveillance outside of the United States in furtherance of murder. This is the Nephilim. This is P.O.C.
All right, fake son follows to the OVITT Family Community Library where the mentally ill is stalking at computer station number 2, and the entity is stalking with amplified noise while a psychopath looks to the side as though it's not happening. You're going to diagnose the terrorists that are gang stalking, the demons that are stalking in this manner. They're doing so while the fake son's remaining over an entire different address for the duration of the day, which is science that's going to prosecute the mentally ill that are gang stalking. 215 E.C. Street. This is, again, relevant to the population that's going to be deported. Gang stalking me at computer station number 2, sharing the same exact mental illness as equally ratchet as any black-faced demon. The demon-possessed, the ratchet gang stalkers don't have a race, sharing in obsessive stalking and mentally ill behavior. This is P.O.C. It's 1:55 p.m. All right, same pattern with the demon gang stalking at computer station number 3. This is the gang violence that OVITT Family Community Library is facilitating. It's the same pattern of conduct at the Ontario Airport Inn, where the entity will be prosecuted with regard to the maintenance of fake suns over the venues while I'm there, and clear opposition to science and common sense. This is terrorism, while the entities engage in what are admittedly sexual violence, keeping genitalia under surveillance in bathrooms where gang stalking is underway. It's 2:07 p.m. This is P.O.C.
All right, here is what immigrants like Atif are going to be deported for. This is Amazon Stalking with 96209U3 and a gang stalking immigrant with minor children, keeping my vagina under surveillance on behalf of a gang stalking airport, conspiring together with murder as the objective. 9HYR828 is monitoring. You'll see him in images in Impossible Light inside of this library where they're engaging what is a mentally ill behavior of molesting with Impossible Light that they're pacing in as gang stalking demons. And that's a demon representing a company that you're supporting. You buy their products and they're keeping you under surveillance. This is the fake sun at 215 E.C. Street at 4 o'clock in the evening. The fake sun is over this building at 7 o'clock in the morning. This is 320 North Euclid Avenue, and it will not be at 1801 East G Street like I documented at 5:11 p.m. This is a gang stalking sex offender, 9HYR828, worthy of deportation. License plate. Stalking, psychopath with Impossible Light, 8EOJ614, mentally ill, monitoring my vagina. Psychopath, stalking under a fake sun. They're not ignorantly stalking with Impossible Light, that's a demon. They're not ignorantly under a fake sun that engaged in a grand departure from being at the Ontario Airport Inn. 8ZIS 779, Impossible Light moving across the back of that vehicle. They're exhibiting mental illness and malice that is shared by gang stalkers like Atif of the Ontario Airport Board. A gang stalking population of immigrants that are keeping American citizens under surveillance, targeting them in furtherance of murder. And they do so with corrupt companies like Amazon. A psychopath that is demon possessed is hovering here, not just deviating from taking off from the airport Terminal 2 or Terminal 4, not just stalking under a fake sun that's not going to be and is at no point remaining over 1801 East G Street. This is speaking to Amazon, that company targeting, that Ontario Airport Board, including gang stalking immigrants like Atif targeting, doing so with the population of demons targeting my vagina. Okay, this is surveillance, presence in the path while psychopaths are stalking with Impossible Light, molesting with while they're opening and closing the door, targeting you while they also know that they're being documented. That's an act of violence, and it's sexually violent and psychologically harmful. Gang stalkers that are on the Ontario board that are immigrants are being deported. They will be prosecuted as conspiring by murder, gang stalking as an airport, and this is all serving to prosecute the domestic terrorists Derek Williams and Mike LORENZ. That Ontario police is monitoring with all of this facilitating conduct. It is the gang stalking police department's fault that this massive facilitation of public corruption and furtherance of murder is happening in the first place. Because they're supposed to be law enforcement, they're engaged in criminal surveillance. And they are of the Nephilim as well. It is currently 4:05 p.m. This is the evidence of monitoring my vagina. This will be the prosecution. Remember, they committed kidnapping at 10:29 a.m., 4:05 p.m., and 10:29 a.m. over the roof of this venue. They're going to prison. This is crossing paths. 7KTF. 885, this is crossing path, gang stalking. Doing so also at Woodside Senior Apartments, 5EZM 554, where the entity kept this fake sun. License plate, psychopaths, pacing 00322L2. This is P.O.C. That's the same psychopath. This is P.O.C.
All right, this is City of Ontario, stalking by helicopter. While the people of the state are gang stalking, you see the group of gang stalking black people. Okay, the gang stalkers that are of different race engaging in the same conduct, stalking in the path with the government that's doing so while I'm uploading evidence, podcast. It's all going on the internet. And while the entity keeps it under surveillance, engaging in the same exact pattern of conduct. Mike LORENZ's prosecution is inevitable with regard to the pattern of conduct by the psychopaths that are posing as police departments, and it's a very highly unpersuasive act where they are conspiring murder with gang stalkers, whose only act is to look to the left and right as though what they're doing that's happening is not happening. As though they're engaging in what is conduct that the evidence doesn't already prove that they're doing. The entity is going to be both certified, mentally ill, and also criminally prosecuted. This is, again, 5:24 p.m. The entity starts sound and helicopter activity as I upload to the Google Drive in order to add to the podcast the damning evidence of Amazon stalking. Amazon stalking using commercial planes. Amazon stalking using commercial planes, which is sponsored by the City of Ontario, that's also using helicopters, that are all engaged in stalking as a corrupt system operating with a population of what are demons in a demonic environment that engage in this very system to murder people. It's 5:25 p.m. That's P.O.C. That's the entity that's very much engaged in surveillance. Their pattern of conduct is speaking and conceding to knowledge about what's being uploaded, pursuant to surveillance of my devices, for which there is no warrant or probable cause or legitimate interest with regard to maintaining surveillance in concert with the people of the state as well. That doesn't even exist
under the Constitution, gang stalking, surveillance with the population. Okay, it's 5:25 p.m. This is P.O.C. at the Ontario Town Square, 224 North Euclid Avenue. That's exactly what the entity is doing, gang stalking with Amazon Prime planes, gang stalking with planes that are associated with the Ontario International Airport, targeting as well. That's what's relevant to that, P.O.C. The entity is gang stalking with Carlos that's remaining at the venue. That music is audible noise under the fake moon that's now over the Ontario Town Square. And this is the entity that's engaged in gang stalking, flying over the top of my head. This is the prosecution of Mike LORENZ as a domestic terrorist, co-conspirator of murder, and Derek Williams. You will see that's the fake moon right there. This is the entity that's engaging in targeting, and this is what they are monitoring. My devices. As I am uploading, they're gang stalking with the people of the state. This is the same Carlos who's present gang stalking with that same Ontario Airport and Ontario Police Department under the fake sun. And this is another ornament in the sky space speaking to surveillance. This is, again, here's my shadow here. Here's a second shadow right here speaking to demons that are using a helicopter engaging in surveillance. That's the pattern of conduct, and they do so while the people of the state just is pacing and enjoying. This is what they're doing under the fake sun. This is what they're doing when you're being molested within your life, like yelling because of being stalked about. And they're sharing what's going on. This is the P.O.C. This is the prosecution of Mike LORENZ, who was exposed as a domestic terrorist leader. If Mike LORENZ wasn't a natural born citizen engaging in what is domestic terrorism, then he will be subject to deportation as well. But the entity will be subject to what are uniform treatment under federal law. Deportation out of the country, federal prison for gang stalking terrorist leaders like Mike LORENZ and Derek Williams, who are engaged in targeting with the people of the state. This is called crossing path and engineer light, and this is psychopathic behavior while they're engaged in the system of surveillance, and the entity is doing so while they are being exposed simultaneously, and they're just engaging in it now as though it's not happening and as though they're not being documented. These are the same demons. I know that they're being documented, and that's why they lie together, come in my face talking about they were told that I was yelling in the bathroom when there is no such yelling. They're engaging in surveillance. That's the entity D. Ramos. He's a demon. And so is Chris. Those are demons, and they're going to prison. And so is Mike LORENZ for the pattern of conduct proven by a demon-possessed and corrupt terrorist agency, not a law enforcement agency. They're engaged in a terrorist conduct, gang stalking. This is demonic activity. This is P.O.C. It is currently 5:28 p.m. The entity's doing so while I am uploading the podcast. That's audible noise. This is what Amazon Prime is doing under the fake sun. That's hovering right here as I walk outside of the OVITT Family Community Library. Here's the fake moon. The entity kept the fake sun, however, at the Ontario Airport Inn, where the entity kept the fake sun from 9:18 a.m. when it's supposed to be over these demons' police department at 9:16 a.m. in a natural environment. The entity is engaged in what is using a police department that is paid for with tax dollars for a crime scene where surveillance is underway, including stalking me at that venue. And stalking is not dictated and defined under the federal law by where you work, such as the Ontario Police Department. It's defined as that crime scene where demons are exposed and where demons are engaged in what is criminal monitoring, like the Ontario Police. They're going to prison for that pattern of conduct. It's currently 5:28 p.m. This is pursuant to Title 18 federal stalking. As I begin uploading the podcast, that's exactly what's going on, and so is this is going on the internet, pursuant to the prosecution of the domestic terrorist leader, Mike LORENZ, Derek Williams, and the demons like Atif on the Ontario executive team, Ronald Loveridge, Alan D. WAPNER on the Ontario board. P.O.C. Alrighty, you're listening to the entity that's engaging in what is psychopathic pacing. This is what they're doing at the Ontario Town Square in the morning on while I have the fake sun over me at the same Ontario Town Square, which is the engineer light. The entity is engaged in this and then stalking me by helicopter when I go to the to the intersection of F Street and Euclid at the bus stop, flying over my head while they are frustrated demons, monitoring evidence that is probative with regard to exposing their mental illness, their criminal activity, and their cooperative engagement in that as a whole city. That is a statewide pattern. That's the entity that's gang stalking at the, again, the state facilitating venue. Paul Leon is exposed as a domestic terrorist leader. He's being removed from office. This is the entity that's gang stalking with regard to what is sponsored by Gavin Newsom, who's not ignorantly engaged in gang stalking as a population and an entirely corrupt government is engaging in surveillance throughout the state, including with state departments such as California Highway Patrol, such as the Department of Motor Vehicles. He's engaged in the pattern of conduct while the entity is gang stalking every gang stalking mayor there that I'm engaging in that I have documented engaged in targeting me, while those gang stalking agencies like Ontario Police are targeting me in those cities like Karen Base in Los Angeles, like Aquanetta Warren in Fontana, California, like Paul Leon in Ontario, California. The entities engaging in the pattern of conduct, and they're doing so while they are simultaneously exposing terrorist leaders that are facilitating and engaged in ongoing surveillance. And this is the Nephilim, okay? The fake sun sets at the town square, deviating from setting at Ontario Airport Inn on G Street yesterday. And then the fake moon is right here in position where the fake sun sets today at the Ontario Town Square, where the fake sun is present as early as 7 in the morning. This is that entity that is indeed engaged in stalking. And I want to be clear, like I stated on video, where that fake sun left Ontario Airport Inn over my head in doing so, and arrived to be over the Ontario OVITT Family Community Library, where it remained after 4 p.m., where this demon is stalking in a helicopter. I want to be clear, every kidnapper of the Ontario police are going to federal prison. This is the pattern of conduct that they engaged in while they were gang stalking and committed a kidnapping on June 16, 2022 under the 10:29 a.m. fake sun. It's still over me while Dylan is molesting me with impossible light at 4 in the evening. They're going to federal prison. It includes Corey Walton. It includes our Guerrero. It includes the demons that are none. There's video evidence that's already published on the website. This entity, this agency's pattern of conduct is already published all over the internet, and the entity is still gang stalking while they are waiting to be put in federal court and prosecuted for what everybody knows is coming, and also for what, again, the mentally ill that are making up police departments engaged in that which they are unfit, mentally unfit, and also based on their criminal conduct unfit to be engaged in. And that is also, they don't even have a purpose to engage in law enforcement. Their purpose is to engage in what has been exposed, criminal surveillance, okay? But they are unfit to engage in what is masquerading as that anymore. Hence, you have the psychopathic pacing. I will give you, I'm gonna upload to X right now, and I'm also gonna upload to YouTube. This is what the entity is doing, and it's sad because it's going on the internet, but this is the desperation. The desperation that I capture as a pattern on the internet is that which is showing a pattern of conduct of stalking and surveillance. The entity is engaging in this while there is no evidence of anything other than what is targeting me in furtherance of murder, and then you thought that that evidence was never going to surface, and that it was your word stating that I'm mentally ill, and that was going to be the means whereby you're going to steal my money and property, get away with it, so that people like Tracy Banks and Jason Isaac Fields and Eric Spencer, the government that's defamed my character, kidnapping me with the Ontario Police, the Rancho Cucamonga Superior Court, Lisa Rogan, okay, Kara Hudson, Shannon Faherty. There is a list of those that have committed kidnapping with this agency that's obviously targeting, and so is the Rancho Cucamonga Superior Court, the Arrowhead Regional Medical Center, sharing of what is kidnapping upon knowing very well that there's no mental illness. This is a state targeting system. They're all going to federal prison. This is what you need to understand, while they are acting as one entity that is stalking me while I'm uploading my evidence onto the internet. But what I will upload is a reminder about what this entity is doing under the fake moon. This is what they're doing under the fake sun while I'm standing at the same wall, and doing so pursuant to what is evidence that I'm documenting. And the entities engaging in what is a concession while they practice a pattern pursuant to Title 18 Federal Stalking Statute 22618 subsections 1 and 2. The entity engages in this conduct as a pattern, a documented pattern of targeting me, and also targeting me with the intent to obstruct justice as I capture evidence, document it, and upload it onto the internet. Here they come with the helicopter flying over my head, stalking, exhibiting mental illness in doing so. And not only is it documented as a pattern that's going to prosecute terrorists such as Mike Lorenz and Derek Williams and every kidnapper of that terrorist agency, it is exposing what Robert Luna and Dominic Choi, Michael Moore have been engaged in Los Angeles, California, gang stalking me using the hallmark of what is helicopters, while the entity keeps a fake sun over me, doing so while they have been keeping the evidence the entire time under surveillance and failing in what is sacrificing me, meaning sacrifices pursuant to what is defaming my character, stating that and you're doing that pursuant to a corrupt government. So you're a gang stalking judge speaking to or adjudicating regarding mental health and defaming my character while you are targeting. And the evidence shows that it's not just gang stalking police, it's the gang stalking sheriff's department and the gang stalking courthouses that are kidnapping together. And that's what's relevant with regard to getting to Kara Hudson based on the gang stalking on day and night by the Ontario Police Department. She's going to prison. And so are the gang stalkers of Ontario Police. That's how you're understanding and recognizing that nexus. That is a direct nexus. It's not ambiguous, it's not vague, and it's certainly not too separate. It's a direct link. The entity is kidnapping by those that are obviously stalking, and they clearly are delusional, thinking that this is okay and that it's going to be forgotten or that there's no link to it. They're very foolish. While they're stalking, the Ontario Police are already prosecuted. So is the Sheriff's Department for targeting. So is the courthouse for targeting. This is facilitating defamation, not accidentally, not coincidentally, but deliberately pursuant to a pattern of targeting, defaming my character while the government seeks to get away with stealing, pursuant to targeting me. Placing cameras in my home, placing cameras around me where they're watching obsessively, monitoring my vagina, watching me in the nude, masturbating, maintaining sex rituals, stalking me day and night in helicopters while they're obsessively engaging in voyeurism and repeatedly kidnapping me while I maintain my investigation. The entity is going to prison for this. And Mike LORENZ is guilty of every single aspect, not just the agency that's stalking me in helicopters and kidnapping. He's engaged in sex trafficking as an entity. He's engaged in the solicitation of murder committed as an entity. He's engaged in criminal defamation. Literally, that agency has engaged in it. But you're talking about what is the totality of that crime committed by the entirety of that government that's maintaining a cooperative system of criminal conduct. That's what's so foolish about it. But nonetheless, I will go ahead and upload that to X for your reminder about what the entity is doing just days ago. Stalking at the Ontario Town Square in the morning, flying in circles, does so while I capture, again, damning evidence, very damning evidence. What do we do? Oh, I don't know what to do. Clearly, stopping the targeting conduct isn't an option for a serial killer, for a psychopath, for the Nephilim. So we'll just resort to the psychopathic conduct of flying in circles while we're stalking over and over and over. This demented behavior while you're stalking, using the resources of a government, exposing the mayor, the court, the fire department, the city airport, the population, everybody a part of that agency, everybody defaming your character, facilitating that same lie, echoing that same chorus. They're acting together as an entity. It's not coincidental, especially when I've maintained this level of evidence showing what is impossible to be coincidental. It's impossible. This is P.O.C. It is currently 5:37 p.m. The entity does that the moment that I begin uploading the podcast. And guess what? It's going to be published in addition to that pattern of conduct of stalking me by helicopter, stalking me by planes, stalking me with impossible light, demons targeting with the intent to obstruct justice while they are engaging in what the underlying allegations, the assertions were at the outset. I'm being kept under surveillance, being gang stalked, being targeted, and they're demons while they do so. This is P.O.C. It's 5:37
And stalking, flying over the top of my head. This is the prosecution of Mike LORENZ as a domestic terrorist, co-conspirator of murder, and Derek Williams. You will see that's the fake moon right there. This is the entity that's engaging in targeting, and this is what they are monitoring. My devices. As I am uploading, they're gang stalking with the people of the state. This is the same Carlos. He's present gang stalking with that same Ontario Police Department under the fake sun. And this is another ornament in the sky space speaking to surveillance. This is, again, here's my shadow here. Here's a second shadow right here speaking to demons that are using a helicopter engaging in surveillance. That's the pattern of conduct, and they do so while the people of the state, this is pacing in engineer light. This is what they're doing under the fake sun in engineer light. This is what they're doing when you're being molested with engineer light while demons like Dylan and Securitas are gang stalking, walking in and out of a venue. And they're sharing mental illness. This is the P.O.C. This is the prosecution of Mike LORENZ, who was exposed as a domestic terrorist leader. If Mike LORENZ was born citizen engaging in what is domestic terrorism, then he will be subject to deportation as well. But the entity will be subject to what are uniform treatment under federal law. Deportation out of the country, prison for gang stalking terrorist leaders like Mike LORENZ and Derek Williams, who are engaged in targeting with the people of the state. This is called crossing path and engineer light, and this is psychopathic behavior while they're engaged in the system of surveillance, and the entity is doing so while they are being exposed simultaneously, and they're just engaging in it now as though it's not happening and as though they're not being documented. These are the same demons that know that they're being documented, and that's why they lie together, come in my face talking about they were told that I was yelling in the bathroom when there is no such yelling. They're engaging in surveillance. That's the entity D. Ramos. He's a demon. And so is Chris. Those are demons, and they're going to prison. And so is Mike LORENZ for the pattern of conduct proven by a demon-possessed and corrupt terrorist agency, not a law enforcement agency. They're engaged in a terrorist conduct, gang stalking. This is demonic activity. This is P.O.C. It is currently 5:28 p.m. The entity is doing so while I am uploading the podcast. That's audible noise. This is what Amazon Prime is doing under the fake sun. That's hovering right here as I walk outside of the OVITT Family Community Library. Here's the fake moon. The entity kept the fake sun, however, at the Ontario Airport Inn, where the entity kept the fake sun from 9:18 a.m. when it's supposed to be over these demons' police department at 9:16 a.m. in a natural environment. The entity is engaged in what is using a police department that is paid for with tax dollars for a crime scene where surveillance is underway, including stalking me at that venue. And stalking is not dictated and defined under the federal law by where you work, such as the Ontario Police Department. It's defined as that crime scene where demons are exposed and where demons are engaged in what is criminal monitoring, like the Ontario Police. They're going to prison for that pattern of 5:28 p.m. This is pursuant to Title 18 federal stalking. As I begin uploading the podcast, that's exactly what's going on, and so is this is going on the internet, pursuant to the prosecution of the domestic terrorist leader Mike LORENZ, Derek Williams, and the demons like Atif on the Ontario executive team, Ronald Loveridge, Alan D. WAPNER on the Ontario board. P.O.C.
All right, Sarah's Regis Group. This is the one that has the fake sun over me as Amazon Prime is gang stalking. Amazon Prime Air is gang stalking with the Ontario International Airport. That's the city of Ontario, the same one that you're hearing gang stalking using the police department under items like a fake sun and at nightfall a fake moon that's remaining over me. This is the entity that is exposing itself as demons while being exposed for public corruption, maintaining an organized system of crime, which is pursuant to surveillance and surveillance of American citizens that the government together with the people are murdering and kidnapping, framing for conduct that innocent American citizens aren't responsible for. And this is speaking to simultaneously exposing what is an inherently corrupt system, not flawed, but deliberately designed pursuant to surveillance. That is malicious. That's not an imperfect or something that is a system that has inherent flaws. The fact of surveillance is speaking to deliberately putting people in prison that are not guilty of that, deliberately inflicting the death penalty against people that are not guilty of the crime, deliberately defaming American citizens that suffer no mental illness, especially when they're targeted, and the entity seeks to silence that person by defaming them. The person that is written off as crazy is the one that will never be believed, and that's by the design of this system. Gang stalking terrorists like Mike LORENZ, whose signature is on my being targeted by helicopter by that department in the city of Ontario, is going to be prosecuted as the terrorist leader that he is. Okay, this is P.O.C. It's currently 5:50 p.m. Sarah's Regis Group is molesting while terrorists are pacing in and out of that venue at 320 North Euclid Avenue. That's where the fake sun was over me as I'm walking out of the OVITT Family Community Library that has the fake sun over me at 10 o'clock in the morning. But not yesterday, while it kept it over the Ontario Airport Inn. We're sex offenders, and the government that's a sex offender is keeping my vagina under surveillance. That's why Mike LORENZ is going to be prosecuted as a terrorist. That's why you're recognizing demons that are suspected to be terrorists, the Atif El-Kadi of the Ontario board and Mr. Malawi, all of them, any of them that are immigrants, they're being deported. You're being deported out of the country in the same way that I'm capturing your criminal activity. If you have not understood that yet, I am proving what you are. You're being deported. This is the implosion of that system that does not remove you, protect you, exempt you. It exposes you. You're being deported. As clearly as you are all listening to my voice. It is currently 5:51 p.m. This is P.O.C. 6:04 p.m. Gang stalking by the Ontario Police, City of Ontario, published to Facebook. Criminal summoning is initiated. While they are watching themselves being exposed for what they reasonably anticipate, documenting you stalking me, and then you engage in more stalking terrorism while it's being documented and published, and they're engaging in what is criminal summoning. LAPD knows exactly who they're hitting with their vehicles as they sound their sirens under a fake sun in LA, where you are routinely conditioned with regard to what is ongoing surveillance that's happening right in your face, and that entity that murders people and calls it an ongoing emergency and unfortunate demise of an American citizen is written off, and it's a deliberate act of the taking of a life of another. It's a homicide. It's murder by demons that are engaged in what is criminal summoning. It's P.O.C. It is P.O.C. It's a federal offense, and the gang stalkers that are operating vehicles, sounding sirens, monitoring, they're going to be prosecuted and mentally assessed. It's 6:05 p.m. The entity is aware, and so while they're aware, go ahead and take a good gander. There's a Facebook page for the P.O.C., the pattern of conduct, where the public investigation is being published online for the public service regarding information, education, exposure. And you are also witnessing the prosecution of this entity that is exposing the Nephilim at the same time. This is P.O.C. It's 6:05 p.m. at the Ontario Town Square. Wells Fargo molesting while I'm publishing the evidence onto. That is a 7L438S. I can't see the last character. That's a psychopath trying to run off, knowing exactly what it is that I'm doing, not only on my phone, but trying to run off while I'm trying to get their license plate. Those are mentally ill demons. They're also stalking me using planes and helicopters. These are critters. These are creatures. They're not normal human beings. If you were like to cut their wrists open, cockroaches would crawl out. That's what I mean by these are demons. Okay, that's an illustration for you to understand that you're not dealing with sane people. You're dealing with Satan that is hidden amongst us through a population. And they're engaged in stalking. 6:07 p.m., that's Wells Fargo at 240 North Euclid Avenue. Sarah's Regis, downtown Ontario luxury apartment, stalking with Impossible Light, that's 320 North Euclid Avenue. Stalking with the airport, stalking with the police department, stalking with the fire department. This is P.O.C. It is 6:07 p.m. Wells Fargo is engaged in gang stalking. The demons are providing an ongoing paper trail regarding their criminal means of surveillance by using the ATMs, stalking by being in those parking lots, doing so pursuant to the P.O.C. while they're engaging in surveilling me. The entity is going to be prosecuted. The entity is exposing itself simultaneously. The entity is not doing anything other than stalking me, and that's what you'll realize. And that's because of the pattern of conduct that I've proven, meaning when I go to Redlands, I'm mentioning Redlands because I haven't been to Redlands at all, right? I go to Redlands, California, anything and everything in that city of Redlands, wherever it is that I go, that ongoing pattern of conduct is obsessively surrounding me and the concern of the entire city of Redlands. So it's not based on, oh, well, it's not all about you because you're not in Redlands, California, and Redlands, California is maintaining its presence, the P.O.C. sleepers that are engaged in surveillance as a whole entity. And when I go to Redlands, California, and that fake sun is over me, and the entity is engaged in all manner of what is elements of monitoring, every siren that sounds, every plane that is flown, every helicopter that is present, pursuant to monitoring, stalking, surveillance, knowing exactly who I am. That's how you are deducing and understanding nothing that they are doing is actually, and this is also removing the illusion because that's the reality. This is nothing other than surveillance by demons. All right, that's the P.O.C. It's currently 6:09 p.m. Demons that are triggered, engaging in psychopathic pacing. Okay, and this is also the means whereby you're removing psychopaths like Atif El-Kadi. You're removing psychopaths like Ronald Leverage, like Alan D. Wapner, like Mike Lorenz from positions where they are mentally ill and they're engaged in what is stalking as a malicious means of what is stalking people like myself in order to get away with killing them and it never being tracked to them, never being associated with them. So they thought, and they foolishly thought, everything, and I mean everything that is done in the dark, meaning every sex ritual that these demons have participated in, it's going to come to the surface with regard to their mental illness, with regard to their satanic practices regarding that is informing their mental illness and their criminal activity regarding the satanic system of gang stalking, surveillance, monitoring, which is demonic activity. P.O.C. at 6:10 p.m. 6:11 p.m. Stalking by the Ontario National Airport. Remember the entity that's hovering over the 1801 East G Street Ontario Airport Inn, but then they're hovering miles away from there at the Ontario Town Square. You know, which is it? Where are you taking off from? You're flying again from the airport. Remember, Ontario Airport Inn, you are flying what would be north to be adjacent to me at the Ontario Airport Inn Hotel and then flying west at a low elevation as though you're taking off there, and then this is west of that location, so then you're hovering here. Remember, when I'm west of this location at the Ontario Village, at the El Pollo Loco, at the Starbucks, Delta Airlines and Amazon Prime Air and Southwest, they're also still hovering as though, when are you taking off? And this is all the pieces of the puzzle, the documentation, speaking to the mental illness of those that are sitting in positions of authority, where they're monitoring demons. They're stalkers. They're psychopaths. Stalking with light. They're light-slinging gargoyles. And all of these gargoyles are being exposed by name. And they're being prosecuted as well. And they're being removed. The Ontario Airport is shown to be nothing other than a means of terrorism, and it's being shut down. And it's the same with the fire department. That's gang stalking. The so-called police department. These are light-slinging gargoyles using fire trucks, police vehicles, helicopters to stalk. You don't even actually need these. You're not keeping them either. They're engaged in conspiracy to murder. And it's being disbanded and shut down. This is the entity that's, again, having a crash out as I publish it onto Facebook, as I publish it onto YouTube, as I publish it onto X. This is that psychopathic pacing. This is what the entity is doing by helicopter as I publish it online. This is the entity that doesn't have any self-control. That's that mental illness that's not closeted as well. Everything that I'm doing is exposing to you. It's providence, because you see the psychopaths freak out while they're stalking me. It's the P.O.C. It's currently 6:13 p.m. All right, the African-American Carlos with the fake chain, the black beanie on, black t-shirt, black bottoms. This is federal prison. He's threatening my life while he's engaged in gang violence and stalking a woman in furtherance of murdering her. While he is stalking me with the Ontario Police Department, he's exhibiting severe mental illness. The instability is evident through his criminal pattern of conduct that he shares with that police department and that airport that are stalking me at the town square with the psychopaths who are stalking all around the perimeter with all manner of light activity. Carlos is subject to federal prison, and this is also routine mental examinations. While I'm documenting him, the entity is threatening your life while the police department uses a helicopter to share in gang stalking with such defendants such as Carlos. This is the Ontario Town Square. Carlos is systematically documented. This is federal prison regarding policy, and I'm specifically documenting this terrorist right now that is threatening me vicariously while that agency that's relying on his criminal presence, for which the agency has no, and the government has no warrant or probable cause to engage in the criminal system of surveillance of being monitored, demons monitoring me, and also demons who are stalking me while monitoring me. Psychopaths doing so under things like a fake moon, under a fake sun, and while they are obsessing over me and keeping my vagina under surveillance as predators sharing in gang violence. It is currently 6:21 p.m. This is while, again, that gang stalker is crossing paths with the Ontario airport and with the Ontario Police Department. Wells Fargo, Mule Car Smokehouse at 200 North Euclid Avenue, Metro 102 Apartments on North Lemon Avenue in Ontario, California, the Ontario Town Square at 224 North Euclid Avenue, the Unique Cafe, Herradura de Oro, these venues that are across the street, the demons that are maintaining criminal presence in the path by living at the venues, going to the ATMs, that's Wells Fargo, dropping off a book, that's OVITT Family Community Library, stalking in that parking lot, all of the venues all together, doing so while you are living, working, visiting at the venue. This is the entity that's sharing an aerial surveillance. And while I'm specifically documenting the regularly documented kidnapper, he engaged in kidnapping with the Ontario Police on September 28, 2025. That's federal prison right there. He's sitting here monitoring me, and all these demons are engaging in the P.O.C. while that same agency that's stalking day and night in helicopters, like I'm documenting again on another day, you're hearing them lie and present what is the response to my question, why are you here? Oh, because you harassed someone. Says who? When? When did that happen? And I document the entity that's gang stalking and no such encounter is occurring. That's the entity that's engaging in surveillance, and that's going to be disbanded and is serving for federal prison for its co-defendants such as Carlos. Okay? This is P.O.C. It's currently 6:23 p.m. That is the reason why, by the way, amongst what is also federal policy targeting terrorists like the Ontario board and everybody on that board, that includes Ronald Leverage. Do your research. These are terrorists and they're going to be prosecuted. Jim Bowman, Kurt Hagman, what is Julia Gu and Alan D. WAPNER. As I've identified already, you have what is also Atif El-Qadi, a so-called CEO. This is nothing other than a vagina monitoring gang stalker who may be potentially an immigrant at that, who's subject to nothing other than deportation like any other terrorist. Okay, he's a psychopath while he's gang stalking, and the ability to know that's no defamation whatsoever. These are facts. That's a fact. Okay, with regard to the pattern of conduct and what is necessarily wrong with you, and what is under no circumstances possibly nothing beyond what is a coincidence. It's impossible for it to be a coincidence, in other words, while the Ontario International Airport practices a pattern of conduct that's shared by all the demons at that Ontario airport, where I also have the fake sun under me, while Omnitrends is keeping me under surveillance, under things like a fake sun, speaking to mental illness shared by those that are even at that venue, the Ontario airport, that's engaged in state surveillance. Okay, this is the entity that's engaging in that, and that Ontario Airport Board, that Ontario executive team, gang stalking chief executive officers are going to be deported like any other immigrant. They're going to be prosecuted like any other co-conspirator of murder, abusing a government position to do so. They're going to be identified axiomatically when it's underway in any city, in any state in this country, and they're going to be prosecuted as the domestic terrorists that they are. Okay, the Ontario airport is being shut down, the fire department, the police department as well. Okay, and what Carlos is sharing and facilitating, that government then threatens your life while you enforce yours. That's the entity that altogether, you're talking about federal prison all the way around. That's exactly what they do. Oh, you have the audacity to try to report it to the police. Well, the police are gang stalking. They're engaged in targeting as well. They're targeting you while the people of the state summon them to be in your presence, while they make up fantastical stories about what you did and have no evidence about it, and they create facts, and then they stand on those facts together, and that's the system of surveillance, not law enforcement. They're being disbanded. Terrorist leader Mike Lorenz and Derek Williams are both going to be federally prosecuted, and I'm going to let you know right now that it's not going well in a federal courtroom. It's already not going well on the internet. This is preceding what is establishing precedent in this country. They will be making history in a horrible way with regard to being prosecuted as domestic terrorists, exposed as enemies in this country, hiding in plain view, calling themselves police chiefs. And they are nothing of the sort. It is currently 6:26 p.m. That's Carlos that's threatening my life while he's being documented, and the entity starts sounding helicopter activity as though I'm going to stop documenting. No, I'm going to include that in the entity that's going to be prosecuted. When your names are being run down, when you understand what it is that I said at the outset and how you are accumulating real-time federal charges, and you think that it's funny now and you're going to be crying then, and the federal judges are going to care about that either. This is P.O.C. It's currently 6:26 7HBZ599, stalking, sex offender, stalking in furtherance of murder, committing the perpetual sex offense, which is sexual violence committed in furtherance of murder, as an entity is stalking you. And it's an entity that's demon-possessed, demonic, terrorizing and psychologically torturing. All of that is built into the sexual violence while demons are molesting with impossible light. And this is the criminal conduct that is shared with the Ontario Police Department that I'm documenting by podcast and on videos, and the Ontario International Airport that I'm documenting on podcasts and on videos, and the entity Sarah's Regis Group that I'm going to prosecute civilly and criminally, gang stalking with the population using the apartment complex, gang stalking with the employees and the patrons of, or the visitors and the residents alike at the complex are sharing in that ongoing sex offense while targeting me with impossible light while they are pacing. This is what they're doing at the OVITT Family Community Library entrance. Walking in and out in impossible light activity, shooting across the sidewalk in order to touch my person. Those are mentally ill stalkers who are demons, the Nephilim's pattern of conduct while they're keeping you under surveillance, and they murder the people that they keep under surveillance. 9TRS 934. That's a sex offender. This is a psychopath that's sitting inside of the parking garage, and I'm going to capture a video right now. This is impossible light activity, okay? This is a psychopath. You are going to be able to mentally assess the demon-possessed that are engaged in stalking, proven through the supernatural like this, light that's just appearing above. And this is a psychopath also that's staring or having light aimed onto a wall. This is psychopathic behavior pursuant to surveillance. On behalf of a government that's engaged in, you can identify all of that criminal conduct. License 9TRS 934 is sharing in a sex offense while impossible light is appearing above the vehicle. This is the demon, this is the Nephilim. That's the light that they like to touch my body with while they're stalking. This is the entity that's engaged in psychopathic conduct while aiming light onto surfaces while they're stalking other population. This is the significance of having a fake sun. This engineer light that you see, it's not even the same color as the headlights. This is the entity that's engaged in that conduct of stalking with impossible light. This is the identification of the stalker. These are demons. Yes, this is absolute mental illness. And this is, again, the entity that has, during the day, the engineer light under their fake sun. And I also want to be clear, artificial light. Artificial light lamps, street lamps, aren't creating this light that's on the inside. That's engineer light, impossible light activity, okay? This is where you are aiming light in that environment. These are the demons that are stalking me on the opposite side of the street while they're driving by and impossible lights moving all across the wall. This is the demon, okay? This is the entity that's doing so. A demon-possessed population sharing and stalking you with the demons that are kidnapping you, criminally defaming you, monitoring your genitalia, and stalking you as a population. Doing so as they are intending to commit murder. This is P.O.C. It's currently 7:32 p.m. This is the nighttime version of stalking with light. This is appearing above your head. That's not the product of street lamps. Street lamps, you stand under light, and what does it do? Create your shadow on the ground, right? All right, so I just want to be clear. This is an entity that's engaged in what is all manner of what is impossible light appearing. You see this? And then you're going to look at those that are in that environment. This is the incrimination of the environment and the diagnosis of mental illness. And this is going to inform the legitimate practice of medicine where demons are abusing, manufacturing information to kidnap pursuant to a state targeting system. And the ones that are gang stalking and manufacturing facts information, which is impossible because you don't manufacture facts, but in a corrupt entity does, that's the entity that's actually mentally ill. Those are the ones that are actually mentally ill. This is called stalking in the past. And this is the entity that's engaging in the pattern of conduct, and this is occurring at the same downtown Ontario luxury apartments where the Ontario Police Department were stalking me by helicopter, the Ontario Airport stalking by commercial planes, in the environment where the entity has, oh, here's a shadow here, here's a shadow back here behind me, oh, there's another shadow over here. This is mental illness as you're able to diagnose it and identify a stalker. CEASELESS Regis Group is going to be prosecuted. No street lamps out here are going to create light that's going to apply upward onto the ceilings. That's the entity that's engaging the elements of monitoring. Demons that are monitoring you are doing so with light activity, crossing path in that energy or light. This is the psychopath creating activity. This is the entity that's a violent sex offender keeping us under surveillance. Doing so as an entity that lives at a facility, you're going to prosecute the property management company. It is CEASELESS Regis Group that has engineered light all over the ceiling during the day while the fake sun is over this venue. This is P.O.C. It is currently 7:33 p.m. at 320 North Euclid Avenue. This is the entity, this is what's putting Mike LORENZ in federal prison. Okay? This is mental illness as well. Very much just digging in the trunk, right? This is the pattern of conduct. It can be whatever it is you want. I'm not talking to Satan. The entity is monitoring me. I'm not addressing what are demons that are gang stalking. Sharing in severe mental illness, by the way. You're not even addressing what is a sane person, and you're not going to refer to that. The entity is going to be prosecuted with regard to threatening your life and stalking you, and the way in which the engineered light proves. This is, again, the activity creation of a psychopath. License 19RS 934, state conduct, P.O.C. Alrighty, I am capturing that entity that's engaged in that P.O.C. This is where the Ontario Police are acting with the demon possessed that are exhibiting that mental illness while they are targeting, activating, again, the pattern of conduct that's engaging in that P.O.C. Everything that comes out of the mouth of a domestic terrorist is going to be applied to the government. Gang stalking immigrants are being deported. Gang stalking terrorists are going to prison. Gang stalking sex offenders are going to be prosecuted like they are. This is a demon that's engaged in what is acting out while they're proven by literally the impossible light, and that's Satan that is acting out while it's being exposed. That's that mental illness that threatens American citizens. They will be deported, they are going to prison, and they are going to be prosecuted. This is P.O.C., and that's CEASELESS Regis Group speaking while CEASELESS Regis Group is stalking. Okay? You don't have any sense of belonging in the facilitating venue where the government's gang stalking. And what's over the top of my head? The fake moon. That's a terrorist that's speaking. No terrorist that's an enemy in this country is going to engage in what is threatening American citizens while you are absurdly psychopathic. Out of your rabbit mind. Gang stalking, following outside of the parking garage while you can go back to your car. If you're so bothered, why are you following me outside of the parking garage? Take your weird self back to your car, you demon. Take your weird self back over there. Go your weird self back over there then. Go back over there. Go back over there then. I'm standing on the sidewalk, Satan. Go mind your business if that's what you're doing. You're a weirdo. This is a demon. This is a demon. That's a demon. It's talking under engineer light, under the fake moon. That's what they do when they're embarrassed. Because you're a psychopath. That's the entity that's speaking as one, though. You're going to prosecute for that. These are the unintelligent demons that are stalking and speaking on behalf of Mike LORENZ. Engage in what is monitoring your vagina and then embarrassed when you show them to be psychopaths. Stalking. That's, again, license plate. Speaking as an entity of demons. That's, again, the demon that's stalking with that license plate. Let's get it again, because this is a psychopath that's going to be federally prosecuted. Doing so while they're engaging in what is that pattern of conduct in furtherance of murder and is, again, bat poo crazy. Absolutely psychopathic. Doing so while the entity is engaging with providing a whole body of evidence of stalking as an entity. This demon's license plate, again, that's speaking as one. Speaking as one, which is license plate. Let's see. 9TSR, hold on. 9TRS 934. So much engaged in what is following me outside. If somebody stalking you, like again, this is the entity that's gang stalking you, caught red-handed, you're in the specific environment, what is it that you're going to say as a psychopath that's gang stalking and you thought nobody knew? Not only is it known, you're now embarrassed and you're following me outside of the parking garage? Because you don't like how you're being described as a gang stalker, keeping a woman's vagina under surveillance, stalking like a demon that you are, that's Satan, pathetic, following me outside while you're supposed to be minding your business. Get out of here. That's a demon. That's license 9TRS 934. That's the entity that's engaging in P.O.C. And CEASELESS Regis is going to be prosecuted for this little brokey demon that's engaging gang stalking as a whole apartment complex. That's the entity that's stalking as the Ontario Police. Keep talking, Satan. Keep talking. Keep talking.
Okay, get the fuck
Keep
out.
talking.
You're not fucking call the cops on your ass.
For what?
For fucking
Call the cops who are gang stalking. You're going to federal prison. Keep talking.
Fucking am I gonna want
Keep
to gang
talking.
stalk your fucking ugly ass?
Keep talking.
Look at that fucking gap between your
Keep
teeth.
talking.
None of your teeth want to fucking be
Keep
together.
talking.
Like your goddamn
This is
fucking
the demon.
brain cells.
Keep talking. That's the demon.
I'm the fucking demon. Goddamn.
This is the demon. Standing with engineer light. What else? This is a psychopath with engineer light. This is monitoring. Mike Lorenz is out of position. Alan D. WAPNER. Keep talking.
I don't give a fuck.
And all the gang stalking immigrants, his mama, his grandmama, his daughters, any bastard children he's related to, abuelo and abuela, they're getting deported. The entities engaged in the P.O.C. and this hostility is because they are gang stalking. It's happening under engineer light while he's talking about calling the cops who are gang stalking with him. Gang stalking with the third parties that are crossing path. That's the mental illness of the psychopaths that are engaged in that P.O.C. I want to be clear. This is license plate 9TRS934. Sarah's Regis Group engaging in harassment upon federal group stalking and monitoring. License 9TRS934, threatening to engage in criminal summoning. It's audible activity in the engineer light. This is going on the internet. This is why Mike Lorenz is going to prison. These are the fools that are engaged in that P.O.C. while he's coming outside and I'm standing on the sidewalk where the entity's not going to make any arrest on public property. This is the ignoramus, the vagina monitoring psychopaths who are stalkers who are mad because they're caught making threats while you're monitoring and while you're stalking. And I'm the one that's on the sidewalk. Take your broke self back over there. I'm on the sidewalk.
Got the money, bitch.
Your mama's a bitch. That's what's wrong. Your mama's a bitch, and that's the truth. You're the one's a bitch. Your mom is a bitch, though. But that's the truth. Your mother's a bitch. Your mother is a bitch. A demon-possessed, gang-stalking bitch. She's monitoring my vagina as well, isn't she? I'm sure she is. Talking about what's ugly. Your children are ugly. That's the truth. Having no life. Either you're sitting out stalking a woman in the middle of the night. I'm not going to mince words with you, Satan. Ain't nobody going to mince words with you. You come out doing exactly what you were doing before, coming to stand on the sidewalk to get front row seats to your prosecution. That has nothing to do. Yeah, I talked to him because he's a fool. Distract him because he needs to watch his mouth. He needs to watch his mouth because everybody's getting prosecuted for his ignorance. Everybody. This is the P.O.C. It's currently, I want to be clear, this is a demon that's speaking to anything that comes to this idiot's mind is what he's stating. It's audible activity. Why? Because he's embarrassed, because he's shown to be a psychopath. Impossible light surrounds, the fake moon is over my head. That's the government that's speaking. You're going to prosecute. That's the government that is speaking. That's the government that wants to call me out of my name when actually it applies to him, his mother. It applies to any bastard kids he has. This is a demon that's a psychopath and it's stalking. And those demons inside of that parking garage have been stalking with impossible light while he's been in there engaged in surveillance. That's again, license plate 9TRS934. The threat to engage in criminal summoning is federal prison. That's exactly what OVITT Family Community Library does while sex offenders like him engage in surveillance, monitoring your vagina, and then make false allegations while they're stalking you. While they are stalking you and everything that comes out of their mouth. Everything that comes out of the mouth of a demon, I want to be clear, that's an entity that's engaged in what is trying to distract you. Do not be distracted because I'm not. This is, again, a mirror showing how pathetic and how criminal and how perverted and psychopathic they are. You're embarrassed by the impossible light activity that proves that you're a psychopath and you're a stalker. So you're going to call me a B word? No, that's your mother. That's your mother, the one that made the mistake bringing you into this place where all you're doing is terrorizing people. That's your mother, that's that B word, not me. Do not be distracted by that, because I'm not. It's a reflection of what they are because you are embarrassed. That's the same entity that's stalking me in helicopters and you are embarrassed because it's proven to be the truth. And who is it that you're talking about? You're going to call the cops? Mike Lorenz and the Ontario Police Department are not cops. Those are demons. That entity that utters that immediately, that's the one that's going to prison. That's criminal summoning. That is textbook P.O.C. Textbook. While the entity has all manner of impossible light activity. At Wells Fargo, while those puppets were obsessing over me, instead of taking money out of your bank account, if somebody's just speaking off, rattling nonsense and gibberish, get your money out of your account, get in your car, go about your business. But what did they do? 67679M3, monitoring with the psychopath, sharing an audible activity. They're threatening together. They're stalking together. What did the Ontario Police Department do as I documented harassment at Wells Fargo, where the fake sun is documented morning until sunset? The entity is stalking by helicopter, punctuating who the entity is speaking for. Oh, you're threatening to call the kidnappers? They're both going to prison. They're both going to federal prison. And he's been engaged in an ongoing sex offense, including with the third party that I documented before I entered that parking garage. Sarah's Regis Group doesn't have any private property. It's a facilitating venue, and I'm going to prosecute them for every word that you just listened to tonight. I want you to be clear on that. This is what an entity does. They harass and terrorize you, and then they engage in voyeurism, and they are looking only at and assessing only what is the reaction of a human being that may freak out. Physical violence, I mean, you're talking about human beings that may, when you're only looking at what they are reacting with, and then the entity is using that, oh, see, they're crazy. They're going around attacking people. They're going around and just freaking out on everyone. They're paranoid. They're unstable. They are a danger to the public. The entity is engaging in what is triggering through the gang stalkers of the Ontario Police, having the gang stalkers that kidnapped you to engage in criminal summoning in your face, having the demons that stole your vehicle, using the tow company that engaged in theft of your vehicle to trigger you while they're gang stalking you via criminal summoning in your face, stalking you by helicopter while they're engaged in criminal summoning, speaking to the people of the state that's supposed to on its surface have nothing to do with you. That's the entity that's engaged in federal group stalking and monitoring. Triggering an American citizen that are, again, they may or may not exhibit what you might deem to be a level of self-control, but how are you going to prescribe that? And how are you even assessing that when the entity is targeting you in furtherance of murder? Who is setting the standard about how you should be behaving and what you should be speaking like? Now, when you're maintaining a prosecution, when you are conducting a public investigation, there may be a manner in which you should conduct yourself so that everybody understands and sees clearly what is going on, so that there is no confusion about what the entity is doing as you make those allegations and prove them through the evidence that you accumulate. However, you are not prescribing what a human being is going to react with when they're being triggered, they're being stalked and harassed, they're being defamed by a whole population of psychopaths who rely on gang stalking police officers, and they're all going to prison. Every single last one of them. They're all going to prison. That's what's coming out of this puppet's mouth. That's what he's referring to. That's why he feels empowered to say that. That's exactly why they're going to prison, because you're going to snatch that sense of power. You don't have any power. You have no power and authority whatsoever. Those gang stalkers that you're calling on, as soon as you're bringing up their name, you're going to federal prison because they're gang stalking. That's exactly how that system operates. While I'm standing on the sidewalk, by the way, and why is it that you follow me out to the sidewalk? Because you're triggered by that damning evidence that I just got. While he's talking about his mother, that's a female dog. He's talking about his bastard children that are little demons, and they are the ones that are, again, shamed and cursed by their demon-possessed daddy. Okay? You and your sisters that are demons, vagina-monitoring stalkers. That's the reality. That's why that entity is speaking that, and that's the truth, because that's Satan that I'm encountering, and that's a pattern, a population of them. A population of them. This is not being triggered. This is speaking to what is absolute disgust regarding corruption that I am constantly confronted with, and then the entity is surrounded with this absurdity of this psychopathic conduct, and then you're embarrassed. You have while you're stalking at that, and the resolution is stop stalking. Oh, don't be a psychopath. Don't be so psychotic. Don't be so delusional. As opposed to, who do you think you're threatening? You're already surrounded with the case. Who do you think you're threatening? Demon under a fake sun and engineer light, but monitoring my vagina. Everybody already knows that you're a stalker. Who are you threatening? Those are the demons that are stalking me from place to place, talking about you're going to call the police. The police that are stalking me. The police that make up information while they're stalking me. The police that rely on that right there. Stalkers to engage in criminal summoning. That's exactly how the system works. Okay? So again, this is again this is an adult episode with regard to the profanity that you heard, but that's again Satan. Satan that's scared. That's fear. And that's also a coward. That's a liar. And that is a coward, bringing shame to everybody connected to him. He's a lying, vagina-monitoring pervert. He's a co-conspirator of murder. He's a little punk, and he's scared and embarrassed because of what I just captured on video while you're sitting around stalking a woman. And then you're still following me outside. I'm walking on the sidewalk. I left the property. Oh, if you work there and you're secure, well, I already left the premises. Why are you following me outside? Okay, this is an entity going out of your way. They are always exhibiting when you look at the bare bones surface of it. Then you can get into the substance of what I'm describing. They're all gang stalking. The fake moon is over my head. It was sitting over the Ontario Town Square. This is the entity that's in that crime scene that follows. Demons that are stalking with light. Absurdly psychopathic. Engineer light is above his car. He's a psychopath sitting there aiming light like he's going to burn a laser through it. This is a psychopath. This is a demon. That's the Nephilim. And this demon, this is Satan that gets out hostile and calls names and all manner of insults. You know why? Because you're embarrassed. You're obsessed with my beautiful smile. You're obsessed with my vagina that I never gave you any consent to keep under surveillance. You can't insult me when you're stalking me, Satan. You can't insult me. You wish you looked like me. You want to be me. You want to wear my skin. You wish you could have my saliva. That's how disgustingly obsessed they are with me. That's why you're stalking me in a parking garage, by the way. Do not get distracted. That's what Satan is doing. Don't get distracted. He's referring to himself when he's using that epithet of the B word. He's talking about his mother, who's a demon. He's talking about his children, little bastard kids that he can't provide for because he's obsessively stalking me. That's who he's talking about. He's talking about whoever would lay down and be connected with him in any sexual manner. That's who's the B. All of those, he's talking about his brother, his daddy. Those are the Bs, all of them. That's why he's a grown person. He's not a man sitting up stalking a woman who just embarrassed him all over the internet. And what does he resort to? Insults. That's all you have? You have no intellect? Under the fake moon, there's no response while the government's been stalking me all day and all night in planes and helicopters? That's what you resort to, Satan, while you're obsessed with me, because nobody's forgotten that. Nobody's forgotten that. This is, again, the pathetic cowards that engage in that pattern of conduct. This is on behalf of American citizens that are targeted, and they don't know what they're being targeted by. And then you are brought on, that's called a non sequitur. That's a non sequitur. So you want to go off and talk about my beautiful smile? I wear it well, honey. I'm not just standing up because I'm somebody that doesn't know. I know that I'm cute. I know that I look good. And you know that I look good. You're stalking me. You're out here stalking some ugly giraffe. That's what you're doing right now because you're stalking, Satan. You are straight up and down stalking. So what are you stalking? This is always a reflection of themselves. Do not be deceived. Him and his vagina monitoring girlfriend, who is probably actually ugly, are the ones that are obsessed with me. Those are the ones that are stalking. That's a light-slinging gargoyle trying to talk mess so that you can be distracted. And you are never going to assess the targeted individual when they're being targeted by a bunch of demons who have no sanity whatsoever. They are sick. They have Looney Tune minds. These are psychopaths. And they have been engaged in the abusive system where if they say that you're crazy, and so you can hear this demon right here who has some sense of authority, some sense of an illusion of authority. Oh, I'm just going to call the cops because that's what you think this is how you think that's going to work. That's why they're going to prison. That's exactly what you're going to disincentivize that system for. That's that dynamic. Oh, I'll just call the gang stalkers themselves. You're going to call those gang members, and whoever shows up is going to federal prison just like that. They're going to federal prison. Just like that. Okay, so let me remind you, because I'm going to put this demon on the internet and I'm going to show you his face. I'm going to show you what is a coward. This is a predator. This is a stalker. This is gang violence. This is an entity that cannot intimidate me. You surely cannot silence me, and you do not distract me. Because when you call me out of my names, you're talking about your own mother that brought you in. You're an accident. You are a terrorist. You're not welcome in this country if you're an immigrant, even worse than that. This is an entity that's engaged in speaking as one that's embarrassed for what they are. That's the Nephilim, beneath my feet. 9JXB760, gang stalking. They're speaking as a state, and Sarah's Regis Group is going to be prosecuted for all of those harassing syllables that came out of that ignoramus's mouth, who has no idea about the liability that's behind his criminal activity and his mental illness that is shared by a population of demons who speak as one, they act as one. You threaten as one, and you're going to federal prison. That's what you're going to find out. That's what you're going to find out. That's exactly what the entity did at Wells Fargo. Gang stalking. You're going out of your way to stalk me by going to an ATM. You are absurdly psychotic. Absurdly. And you're obsessed with me. You don't want it to be known, so you go to an ATM teller in order to hide the fact that you're stalking. And guess what? Under the fake moon and an engineered light in the environment where this demon, license plate 9TRS934, is shown to be engaged in gang stalking, P.O.C. 101, okay? Pattern of conduct, engineer light at nightfall. Like street lamps create light on the ceilings inside of buildings. That's, again, impossible light activity. And then you're going to listen to everything that Satan said. That's the demon that is stalking, obsessed with you. Oh my gosh, I'm obsessed with you. I'm obsessed with everything about you. I'm obsessed with how many times you're inhaling and exhaling every second. I'm obsessed with how you move. I'm obsessed with the words that you use in your vocabulary. I'm obsessed with the way your shadow moves behind you. I'm obsessed with everything and the way that you think and even the way that you're prosecuting. That's the reality of Satan's position toward me. What comes out of his face, though? Oh, you B? You broke B? First of all, there's nothing that looks broke about me. Second of all, there's nothing that is broke about my mentality or my conduct. Third of all, he just was, as far as the prosecution, he just got read up and down. And he hops out and he engages in what is psychopathic conduct, opening and closing his trunk. He's monitoring. He's a demon. He's a stalker. He's opening and closing his trunk. Look at what he's doing. He's just opening and closing his trunk, and he's looking, thinking, reaching for the nearest insult. That's a demon that's monitoring, and doing so with the Ontario Airport. Sarah's Regis Group is going to be prosecuted. This is what the Ontario International Airport is doing with the Ontario Police Department. While demons are speaking, you are speaking as one entity. That's the reality of how you feel while you're stalking me. You are stalking me. That's why you hear me speaking the truth to him, okay? You're dealing with Satan. So I will state forgiveness for the language, but these are demons. So I'm not going to mince words. Excuse me, Satan, your mother is the one that is the word that you're referring to me as. Don't ever get it confused. You're stalking me out here in these streets. And I know that you're stalking, and there's evidence that you're stalking. And you're also stalking with the demons that you want to refer to because you think I'm going to run away now. No, you're going to federal prison. This is going on the record as a threat to engage in what is kidnapping, because that's all the Ontario Police Department do, is kidnap while they're stalking, relying on stalkers like license 9TRS 934 to commit the federal offense of criminal summoning. They rely on that together while the entities engage in that P.O.C. as one. Don't be distracted by that. Because I'm not. That's a demon that's obsessed with my vagina, obsessed. They go into the bathroom to stalk me. They want to be next to me where I'm sleeping. They want to be next to me where I'm traveling. They want to be next to me where it is that I am undressed and indisposed. They're stalking me every day and every night. And then you're going to recall what this demon license 9TRS 934. That's not persuasive while you're gang stalking. And it is a conclusive fact that you're gang stalking. So the fact that you are engaging in gang stalking and looking like you're bored, the fact that you're gang stalking while you're looking to the left and the right, the fact that you're gang stalking while you're uttering insults, which is nothing other than audible activity, that's not persuasive evidence that you are anything less than an obsessed psychopath that's gang stalking. License plate 9JES 103. Stalking with impossible light. This is where the Ontario airport just flew over me right at the bank. They're engaged in the P.O.C. at the ATMs. Again, and doing so with that demon inside of that parking garage that's engaged in surveillance. Stalking in the path. Impossible light all over the buildings, all over the sidewalks where this is not traffic, it's surveillance. These are the demons that are speaking as one. These are the demons that are embarrassed. Okay, the forceful means whereby he's speaking and saying things that literally don't mean anything. Because you are enamored with my appearance. You're enamored with my way of being. You're enamored with my ability to prove what you are, even while you're also hostile at the same time. That's a conflicted psychopath. Sexually gratified also, sitting around masturbating while monitoring my vagina, and then gets out the car because you're embarrassed while you're engaged in gang stalking me. Okay? These are the demons that are both racist at the same time and also stalking a black woman at the same time. This is the truth. That's the truth. That's that dichotomy. That's that inner conflict. You know why? Because they're demons. That's why. They're demons. That's where they have that ongoing, seemingly contradictory way of lifestyle. You have supposedly you have a wife or a girlfriend. Why are you stalking me? Oh my goodness. Why is your wife and your girlfriend stalking me with you? Because that's what they're doing as a demon-possessed population. What these demons are doing by stalking while the entity is flying over me at the Ontario Town Square by planes and helicopters on Euclid Avenue, that demon's been inside of the Ontario, downtown Ontario luxury apartments, 320 North Euclid Avenue, speaking as a state. Sarah's Regis Group, I'm going to prosecute you for everything that just came out of the face, representing you as an entity that's gang stalking me, because that's the government that's using what is downtown Ontario luxury apartments. Those property management personnel that are gang stalking by place of employment, gang stalking by flying over your apartment building, gang stalking by parking outside of your apartment building, driving around your apartment building, going in and out of your apartment building. They are gang stalking and further into murder, and they also engaged in, which is you engaging in, what is harassing me while I'm prosecuting you and exposing you as a terrorist in this country. To engage in what is failing at monitoring me, in other words, and failing at actually insulting me. You're not insulting somebody that you're stalking. If I am actually ugly, if I'm actually so broken, so why are you stalking? Why, Satan? Why are you stalking? What? Why are you stalking? You just like to spend all your time chasing people that aren't worth your time, that are so low and beneath you, while you're a whole psychopath sitting around in dark places aiming light with a whole engineered environment. That's a demon. That's a psychopath. Somebody in need of mental examination. I mean, a battery of tests. Serious mental instability, and I'm not exaggerating. This is, again, closeted mental illness that's no longer a secret. Everyone can see it. And then you hear everything. It's nothing other than audible activity coming out of that psychopath's mouth. That's an embarrassed demon. That's what that is. While him, his mother, whatever gave birth to him, whatever is connected to him, they're all demons that are monitoring me as well. A demon-possessed family, because that's the reality of where he came from, and that's what he's doing. And that demon is embarrassed. Okay, so again, I just want to speak to, that's the reality. I don't mince words with demons. I'm not going to back down with regard to, you're not going to intimidate me. And second of all, I'm standing on the sidewalk. Why did you literally just follow me outside? I'm not even in the parking garage. If you're working there, why are you following me outside? Why are you following me outside? This is the demon that goes out of the way. If you pay attention to the demon that's gang stalking me and speaking on behalf of the embarrassed demons of the Ontario Police at the Wells Fargo, you're supposedly focused on getting money out the ATM. Pay attention to that video. They spend time, and this was clearly staged. You have these demons that came out of nowhere, pulled up in the white truck, phone out already, phone out, aimed on me, already clearly had a pre-planned attack of laughing hysterically at what, there wasn't even a funny joke. If something is funny, you've heard me laugh. You've heard me laugh. There was nothing funny. It was very awkward. These are demons, though. These are demons that are stalking, and these are demons that are intimidated by me, and they're also embarrassed by what I expose about them while I'm prosecuting them. And they are puppets that come on behalf of an entity like the Ontario Police, and they're speaking, and they're supposed to engage in what, again, the Ontario Police Department are supposed to be, quote-unquote, above. They're not. They're vagina monitoring stalkers. These are demons that lurk around in the dark in police vehicles. That is that's what's going to stop. That you're talking about all that mental illness, all that stalking, all that psychopathic, all that demon possession in a uniform that's supposed to be given authority under the law. That's exactly why I'm exposing this. That's going around murdering people and kidnapping them. Okay? The demons that are obsessed with my vagina, but out of their mouth comes what are insults, and those insults are supposed to demonstrate, oh, I'm not stalking you because you're a bee and you ugly, but you're a vagina monitoring demon. Everything that you do is centered on me right now. You're literally worshiping me. You worship me. That's not a compliment. It's a problem. It's a mental problem on their behalf, because it's not imagined. You're all looking at that. So you're talking about the P.O.C. that I'm documenting on a ceaseless basis, and this demon just got embarrassed. You cannot insult the person that's federally prosecuting you. Do you think, and second of all, do you think that a federal prosecutor that is in court bringing a case, do you think that they sit up and care about what are your opinions about their personal appearance, or their appearance, or what you think about their hair or something? But let me be clear, my hair is done. Let me be clear, I look perfectly fine. Well manicured, taking care of myself. Not that I need to, it doesn't, because let me tell you something else. Let me tell you what else doesn't matter. It does not matter how my hair is, whether my nails are done or not. It doesn't matter where I'm sleeping outside. I'm prosecuting the state of California. That's what's happening. That's what they seem to not understand. It doesn't matter what I look like. It doesn't matter what's going on, because what will be happening is this prosecution. That's what's happening. And there is nothing that's going to change it. Absolutely nothing. But in addition to that, while you're obsessively stalking me from all angles, that's what I'm documenting. And then you're listening to this puppet talking about, oh, be this and be that. Demon, you are obsessed with me. You are obsessed with my genitalia, which you know far too much about. While you're obsessing with me, consuming my bodily fluids, worshiping me, crying and singing and howling under the moon about me. That's what's out here gang stalking me, talking that mess. So that's why you're hearing me speak the truth. But no, that's your mother, because it is his mother. That's his mother. That's his daughter. That's his demon-possessed father. That's his gang-stalking neighbors. His demon-possessed psychopathic friends. All his co-defendants sitting around monitoring to that, and they're all obsessed with me together. That's the reality. That's why you heard that. Forgive me. I will state, forgive me for the language. I am always going out of my way to make sure that as many people as possible are able to benefit from what it is that I'm exposing. But you've heard me encounter these demons before. Okay? Very seldom. But very seldom where you hear me, I have to deal with Satan, so this is what it is. I'm dealing with Satan. And Satan is engaging in what is a pattern of conduct, while you're at the same time, who do you think that you're insulting while you're stalking me? You are a whole psychopath. You're delusional. You are way too far up somebody's genitalia and their personal business to be uttering some sort of insult in the presence of everybody that already knows that you're stalking me. And that you're a demon. They also know that. They all know that. Who is it that you're impressing? Because the federal judge is listening, and these are, again, what you know nothing about, the law. Stalkers are going to be analyzed with regard to what they say and do. And they're speaking as an entity that thought that they could target somebody and you'd never make a connection, that it's a system and that you'd never be able to prove that they're targeting. And that same system that is proven, that same entity that's acting in one accord is going to be speaking as one, prosecuted accordingly. Acting as one, prosecuted accordingly. Prosecuted accordingly. So you're going around engaging in psychological torture, you're stalking, you're molesting, you're stalking in places like bathrooms, you're doing so under ridiculous and asinine objects like a fake sun and a fake moon. These demons are out of their minds, and then you're engaging in what is, again, remember, the ordinary target individual that is reasonably fearful of that is reasonably terrified and threatened with regard to their safety when you're talking about you're going to call the police while you're trying to enforce your rights. That's what you're comparing it to, not me, because I'm advocating on behalf of everybody. And I'm fully entitled to what is recovery and justice. Just because I'm not actually scared doesn't mean that I'm not under the law is the standard. Reasonable fear. You are reasonably fearful of every demon that's acting on behalf of a government keeping you under surveillance, and they all are on a 24-hour basis. And then speaking to the fact that you're going to call the cops while you're gang stalking, speaking to the fact that you're going to call the cops who are proven to be gang stalking, engage in a pattern of defaming your character while they're keeping you under surveillance for no legitimate purpose, while there's sex offenders stalking you in places like bathrooms and kidnapping you with the intent to conspire your murder. You're summoning that. That's what you're referring to? While you're engaged in documentation, that's federal prison. License plate 9AQB576. P.O.C. These demons are engaged in what is teamwork. This other demon back here is stalking on the side of the road with light activity, and then the other demon pulls up to Wells Fargo. This is light activity while the demons are stalking with commercial planes and helicopter. All right, this is license plate, and this is what the entity is engaging in while stalking and calling the name. You're obsessed with me, Satan. You are literally obsessed, and you're a whole demon. You're a whole demon. This is the Nephilim that's engaging in that pattern of conduct. This demon looks like she rolled out of bed to come engage in gang stalking. License plate 9LRT612. These are the demons that speak as one when they're stalking you, and then engaging in what is that P.O.C. Hold on, go back. And then engaging in that P.O.C. in concert with that entity that's stalking by planes. Stalking by helicopter. Stalking in a specific environment where the fake sun rises and sets. That's light activity while they're gang stalking at Wells Fargo. They're acting together. They're not separate at all. Okay? And what you're paying attention to while this third party was making all of those statements, that's federal prison. But while that entity, pay attention to the environment. You're never being distracted. It is always serving my prosecutorial purposes. Always. That fake moon was beside the clock at the Ontario Town Square. I'm capturing it over the top of my head where this demon follows me outside of the parking garage to the sidewalk while you're following me outside. I don't need you to tell me I don't need to leave nothing. First of all, it's not even a private property. I'm going to prosecute CEASELESS Regis for engaging in surveillance in a malicious system and then seeking to engage in what is threatening to commit kidnapping. It's not even private property. You're not engaged in any private property rights while you're engaging in surveillance as the public entity. That malicious system is being shut down. It's all being obliterated. But I'm going to prosecute. That's called malice. Okay, license 9AQB576 is monitoring with that demon whose license plate I'm reading that I just read right now. They're stalking with light activity together. Then going to the Wells Fargo ATM, they're creating a paper trail with regard to documenting them engaging in the P.O.C. 8BQL401 is also engaged in P.O.C. All right, Mule Car Smokehouse, engaging in harassment together. Metro 102. Wells Fargo, CEASELESS Regis Group, Downtown Ontario Luxury Apartments, the gang stalking security company of CEASELESS Regis Group, the City of Ontario, the Ontario Board, the Ontario Police, the Ontario Fire. This is the state that is speaking through the mouth of this puppet. So I just want to make sure that that's clear. You're always mindful of all of that. While the entity is enamored and obsessed with me, and then audible activity pursuant to monitoring, which is the proof of that, and then resorting to what are insults that actually applies to him. No, that's true. He's talking about his mother. He's talking about his baby mama. He's talking about himself with regard to sitting up in the middle of the night stalking somebody. He's talking about himself with regard to being embarrassed while I capture damning evidence that's going on the internet, which is also establishing precedent regarding the entity that's going to watch their mouth while they're stalking you. Because that's the government that's threatening you. That's the government that's saying, that is speaking to harassing you while they are stalking. You don't even have a right to be in my presence, and then you're gonna harass me as the government that thinks that it is so big and bad and elite that nobody sees their magic, nobody knows what they're doing, and if we say you're crazy, then you're crazy. Yeah, no, that's the entity that's going to, this is the implosion of that gang stalking system, okay? That's what is so pathetic. The reality is that hundreds of them, as I'm documenting, where I'm at, everywhere I'm at, they're all acting together, obsessively stalking me and keeping me under surveillance. I mean, every single move that I make. This is a hovering stalking system, hovering. Mental illness, on alert. exposed while you have demons that are monitoring like that, stalking at that degree. And then you're talking about what is speaking as one. So that third party, when you heard me talking about, yeah, you need to talk to him because he was going off at the mouth. Because that's what I said that. And that's exactly what she was doing. Just want to be clear, that's what she was doing. Because he was running off at the mouth and everybody's going down for everything that is said. It's audible activity. You're engaged in what is acting in furtherance of my murder while you're speaking. You're monitoring. It's audible activity while you're stalking. You're in the specific environment, no warrant or probable cause. I'm prosecuting where you stand. But I have even more than that. The engineer light, it's on video. This is again, absurdity with regard to ignorance, with regard to cowardice, with regard to demons that don't have any self-control. The intelligence quotient, and then also the lack of character, no self-control whatsoever. So now you're caught, and now you're just mad, and you think that the fact that you're obsessed with me is some sort of distraction, while basically you're engaging what is an admission to being angry because you're gang stalking. You got out the car to open and close your trunk altogether. What are you even doing? Because yes, I'm going to document you stalking. Yeah, anybody is going to do that. This is an entity that is absurdly delusional. You are delusional. You're delusional. But this is going to be a wake-up call for the masses. For the masses. This is how you need to understand how the law works. And this is the corruption of the government. But the reality, the practical outworking of how the law is operating, and how establishments like Sarah's Regis Group, Downtown Ontario Luxury Apartments, that establishment is stalking by virtue of the building being at that address. It's a means of presence. It is criminal in nature. It is serving for what is a malicious means of facilitating surveillance. Everybody at that address and everybody engaging what is presence around that address. Meaning you're at Herradura de Oro gang stalking me. That's prosecution of Downtown Ontario Luxury Apartments. You're engaged in facilitation. There's no avoiding being prosecuted. The evidence goes beyond that, and I'll prove that they are engaged in the pattern of conduct. That's why I can go across the street to that venue where I'm telling you they're all monitoring, and I can go to that venue, any one of them, and they are monitoring. The fake sun, the fake moon remains over me. The demons are stalking in the path with impossible light activities, psychopaths, bat poo crazy. Bat poo crazy. You're crazy. You are very crazy. Stalking with impulse, you are very unstable. And they know that they're unstable, and they're embarrassed because their instability is public information. Public information. When his mother is a light-slinging gargoyle, giving birth to this shame, this shell of, this is not a man. He's stalking, and he just got embarrassed by a woman. Embarrassed by a woman. I know exactly what I'm talking about, and I also know what I'm dealing with. You're obsessed with me, You keep talking, Satan, because you're obsessed with me. Obsessed with me. And I mean that. That's not a compliment. I don't like that. But that's the truth. That's the reality of what's going on here. While you heard that demon, he's obsessed with me, obsessed with my sin, obsessed with what I say, obsessed with my thoughts, obsessed with what I speak about him on the internet and them on the internet. Speaking into and obsessed with what is it that you're looking at on your cell phone? Because you're not documenting and prosecuting like I am. So who is it that he's speaking in front of? Who is he trying to entertain while he's speaking nonsense into his cell phone? Did you pay attention to what it is that he's stating? Because while he's stating it, and I'm saying keep on talking, Satan, he's looking at his phone like he's putting it on like Snapchat or Facebook Live or something while he's engaged in what is monitoring. You're engaged in gang stalking. The entity that's doing that, you're making a paper, you're going to prison. That's a paper trail. Anyway, the entity's engaged in such ignorant conduct and they have no idea how this is coming back. How this is coming back, but because you're dealing with they are idiots. These are the idiots under a fake sun. So you're stalking by the police and with the police. You're stalking with the entity that's maintaining surveillance by the airport, and that's already preceding what's on the record. And then I'm encountering you. You are speaking to. Oh, who are you? I'm sorry. Repeat that again. Who are you gonna call? You're gonna call what? You're gonna call the gang members. You're going to prison. That's a threat. That's a threat with regard to kidnapping. That's a threat with the intent to obstruct justice. That's a threat while you're conducting a public investigation. That's a threat while you are engaged in documentation, the ordinary target individual. And the government is not going to silence you. That is a demon speaking as a state. That's why the entity also has that inexplicable, because it's inexplicable based on reality, and it's inexplicable based on common sense and logic and a basic standard level of intelligence. Why you feel so empowered, that makes you feel strong and mighty to say you're going to call the police, and then you're going to do what? The police are going to do what? come and lie and state, oh, we were told that you scratched his car while you were standing on the sidewalk outside. That's what you're going to talk about? But they don't want to talk about the entity stalking me day and night by helicopters. That's the part that they don't want to talk about. And they also want to leave that out of the equation when the demons come in my face, as though those are two separate occasions, totally two separate universes. That sort of delusion, that's exactly why gang stalking police are going to federal prison, plus being subject to mental examinations. That's the very reason why you have demons that are absurdly bat poo crazy talking about calling the gang members themselves, who are wasting thousands of dollars on me, the one whom they're obsessed with, and so is that puppet, that gargoyle, light-slinging, vagina-monitoring psychopath. That's the reality. That's just the truth. Okay, so I just want to make sure that that's clear. That's the reason why I went over the Sarah's Regis group is because all of those demons, including him, are engaged in stalking with impossible light. The impossible light that you see above his head, above that vehicle, the impossible light while that demon is stalking in the path, in the presence of that engineer light. While, again, this is the same location where I've been documenting, as you heard on this podcast, as you can see all on the internet, on my website, on the YouTube channel where the public investigation is being published as well. The entity is stalking like they are on a daily basis in an absurd environment, speaking to your mental illness, the mentally ill that engage in what is conduct seeking to deny that they are stalking me. And there is no denying it. There's no effective denying. There's no persuasive denying it. With regard to, remember, you're not just stalking. This is somebody that's conspiring my murder while you're speaking out what are insults. Now, I don't care about a demon's opinion. You're obsessed with my vagina, but yeah, you're talking about what is my smile. My charming smile. This is an entity that's engaging. You're obsessed with me. You're stalking me, and you're able to. That was a very quick scan. He went up and down with regard to his obsession. He's very familiar with me. In other words, while you're talking about. I didn't even hear everything that he was stating, but he was yelling and speaking a lot. All I'm listening to are what is legally relevant. Oh, you're going to call the gang members? That's federal prison. What is it that you're yelling out epithets and insults? That's all while you're monitoring. That's harassment. That's of a federal level in furtherance of murder while you're engaged in federal stalking. Holding out your phone, which is criminal conduct, and the entity is doing so in your face. This is conspicuous stalking. This is all very foolish. All of it is very foolish. This is somebody that is not fit for what it is that they're doing, and they're also not prepared. They don't even understand what it is that they're engaging in, and everybody that's going to suffer for it. But that's what's out here gang stalking. This is gang violence. These are ignoramuses. These are a bunch of cowards that engage in chaotic conduct, and they aim it toward one person altogether. And I'm showing you that same chaos is how I've proven that they are all together acting against each other's interests. And I'm going to prosecute for every syllable that comes out of that idiot's mouth. Every single last one. And the truth of the matter is that you're obsessed with my vagina. That's the truth. You're obsessed with my vagina. That's why you have a whole fake sun over me while you worship me all day long. And a fake moon over me while you worship me all night long. Okay? Nobody believes that. Everybody knows your true sentiment toward me. It's obsession. Everybody also knows that you believe that you're inferior to me. You are. That's why you come through a whole population. That's the truth of the matter, however. See, I don't have to make up facts. All I do is hold out my camera and document. That's all I have to do. Because you're stalking. And you're a demon, moreover. You are a demon. You're a demon. So the entity's engaging in that, and that's what is so absurdly pathetic about the demon possessed. That's, again, the demons that are stalking with the entity that's maintaining that level of activity. They do so while they are obsessively stalking. And this demon, I'm capturing an image of the fake moon over the top of my head, while that demon then follows me outside of the parking garage. This is the entity that's engaging in that P.O.C. and is doing so while monitoring. So I want to give that license plate again. Let me give you that license plate. It's currently, by the way, 8:16 p.m. where the entity, that's Union Pacific, which is going to be a guise of prosecution. The entity that has a train in the city of Ontario is not going to be the cause of amplified. Remember, it's the entity that's stalking with train activity at the same volume at Woodside Senior Apartments. Captured it on video. The entity gang stalking me over the years. Remember, it's just noise. So the entity, all you're doing also, you're going to prosecute based on the unintelligent illusions that these demons present. The entity is doing so when I'm living in my car, when I'm staying at Fern Avenue and G Street. The entity is filling the vehicle with train activity at the same volume, impossible audible activity. The entity is doing so while they're monitoring. And this demon that is obsessed with me and stalking me on behalf of the government that's engaged in criminal summoning, that's the demon that's obsessed. That's a bunch of demons. You commit that whole fire department's purpose to keeping me under surveillance. Oh no, you more than like me. You're obsessed with me. Okay? The entity's engaging in that on behalf of, again, the average ignoramus that's engaging in what is violence. That's why they go to federal prison. This is why Mike LORENZ, Michael GERKEN, Alan D. WAPNER, the Ontario Board, the Ontario Executive Team that are engaging in that pattern of conduct, that's why they're being federally prosecuted. Okay, again, that license plate. He's engaged in criminal summoning, stalking in the path. License 9, Thomas Robert Samuel 934. In the engineer light that is on video, they have the convenience of gang stalking that is monitoring, while impossible light that you already saw inside of that parking garage, while demons are manifesting, driving up vehicles with sirens, light activity and audible activity. That's the entity that's engaging what is stalking with light. This is what Sarah's Regis Group has been doing for since I've been at the Ontario Town Square, including while the fake sun is over me. And as I go over there, you're looking at a gargoyle stalking in the path, engineer light above on the ceiling inside of that parking garage, which is not the product of any street lamp that is outside of that parking garage. In addition, they're doing so while the entity moves a fake moon over my head, moving it from being beside the clock to moving it as I move from place to place, just like they are with a fake sun. A population of demons that don't have their own existence. They don't have their own concerns. They do not have their own sense of purpose and worth. They're all engaged in stalking together. One of the systematic means of doing so is gang stalking where the people of the state work. This is the entity that's engaged in what is maintaining obsessive surveillance. And what you just heard is criminal summoning, and that demon is still inside of that parking garage, gang stalking with that same government. And that's exactly what was happening while he was speaking everything that he was speaking to, which is legally significant, of a stalker that's conspiring your murder, harassing you, threatening to engage in criminal summoning. Also, while you're not violating the law, you're documenting them stalking you, because that's exactly what you all know is underway in that specific environment. These are the delusional psychopaths that are going to be prosecuted with regard to their mental illness. Everything that comes out of his mouth is that which is relevant to assessing, certifying psychopaths who are targeting innocent American citizens, who are not going to be kidnapped anymore by demons like that who bear false witness and state that you are doing something wrong to them when you are documenting them gang stalking you with the government. That's absurdly mentally ill, stalking you with the sound of what is an amplified train that's heard all throughout Ontario at the same volume level. That's the absurdity of the mentally ill that are stalking, and think that insults is some sort of distraction from it. It's not. It's not at all. Not even a little bit. Nobody forgot that the entity is stalking by airport, stalking by police department, stalking by the fire department. And then you're talking about the audible activity of a demon that's engaging in criminal surveillance with the state and harassing you while doing so, while it is all serving murder. That's what the entity's ultimate objective is. Murder. And they are absurdly obsessed with you while they are stalking. Stalking is a criminal act. It's a criminal behavior that is born of obsession. Now, this is a pattern of conduct that's even worse because the government is stalking you. The government is obsessed with you, and what's wrong with them is that they are the Nephilim. These are demons. And demons think that their facial expression rebuts the evidence, that they think that looking to the left and the right and maintaining activity or being at a place where they think that there's some sense of belonging. No, none of these demons belong anywhere. I will prosecute you stalking me at your job at the Ontario Police Department. Because the entity is maintaining a specific environment. Look up in the sky, because that's not the sun. That's the identification of the Nephilim. And they're all walking around in uniforms trying to hide under the name of a police agency. I'm going to prosecute every single last one of them. They're cockroaches. They're not engaged in law enforcement. And they put up puppets like that to speak against me because they've been embarrassed. That's why. And you should be embarrassed, because you shouldn't be stalking me. And you shouldn't be obsessed with my vagina. You shouldn't be obsessed with looking at me in the nude and watching and sitting around masturbating and having sex with each other and engaging in gay sex while you're calling on demonic spirits. That's what demons like him engage in. And then you're engaging what is insults while you literally sit up and worship me in life and in your mind. You're stalking, Satan. Nobody's distracted by that. You literally are doing that in the engineered environment. Okay, I'm going to digress there. Point made. This is the P.O.C. I'm going to upload this video onto the internet. All right, and this is the entity that's engaging what is targeting. I'm reminding you about what the ordinary targeted individual is faced with. My documentation that's on the internet for you to witness. It's also relevant for what is to be assessed. The entity that's engaging in stalking you is doing so, which is typically triggering to the ordinary target individual because they know, but they have hunches and they don't have evidence to prove it. They're not paranoid. They are not imagining it. The entity's engaging in what I have proven. Other people have stated that they don't have any evidence to demonstrate and prove. And unfortunately, you have to, it's not unfortunate, but the reality is that you need evidence in order to prove your allegations. And not only that, they're going against the big machine of what is the government. It's Big Brother that's keeping you under surveillance. Big Brother is the one that's targeting you. Big Brother sits up and stalks and studies you. So Big Brother is not only stalking you in a way in which you're not supposed to be able to prove, but also Big Brother is sitting back studying you and finding ways in which they can trigger you in order to then use that as an illusion of you being mentally ill while they are ostensibly appearing to be just minding their business, doing their job, not talking to you, not addressing you, not engaging in anything that's related to you. That's the entity that's engaging in what is that psychopathic pattern of conduct. It is gang stalking. It's demonic activity. It's demonic. These are demons that engage in that. These are demons that are under the law that's prosecuted as what is impunity and malice. With regard to the government that has no legitimate interest whatsoever engaging in surveillance, and the ways in which they're engaging in surveillance, like in bathrooms, like with a whole population. And then the entity does so in the malicious ways that I've shown, like I stated earlier. The entity is documented. You'll see very often the entity gang stalking me through the gang members of the police department, and they will use specifically with the intent to harass you and trigger you and looking for you to act out. I am under all circumstances maintaining an investigation and documentation, and I've also been clear at the outset that this is about demons as well. Okay, and I'm also very passionate about what are demons. You need to know about what is not only criminal, but what is evil. Okay, and it is the entity that's particularly perturbed by my ability to do that. And regardless of how passionate I do it, that's not mental. This is the end. They are literally inferior in every regard. That is not mental illness. But I will show you what are their tactics, and that's exactly what you're going to study, because they're going to prison. They're going to federal prison for the very things that they engaged in, and you're pointing out the ways in which you're identifying that malice. The entity's engaged in surveillance. So now we all recognize the crime scene. We see where they're doing it and what they do as they do it. So now you're looking at what are deliberate decisions made in order to engage in a particular iteration of the pattern of conduct. They will send in the entity that's engaged in criminally summoning you at the OVITT Family Community Library. Oh, the demons that are gang stalking you, particularly the ones that engage in kidnapping you and defaming you and sending you to San Antonio Regional Hospital. That's T.Cho of the Ontario Police. The entity that engaged in kidnapping you at Starbucks, engaged in kidnapping you at the 7-Eleven with Jason Knighton and Lester Keys. That's Melnick while they're arriving at the OVITT Family Community Library. The entity's doing so under the fake sun. The entity's talking to you, engaging in what is presence with San Bernardino County in order that the very presence of the behavioral health unit is defaming your character while they're all engaging. It's all criminal without even saying a word because they're monitoring. The system of surveillance is underway. In addition, they're triggering you. They want you to act out with regard to the narrative that they are systematically, progressively trying to create, triggering you by having somebody that's, while they're harassing you at the OVITT, the P.O.C. is underway at the OVITT Family Community Library. Giving you an example, and it's on video. Officer T.Cho, he's going to federal prison. He engaged in kidnapping with Kessel at Woodside Senior Apartments and did so pursuant to kidnapping with San Antonio Regional Hospital. T.Cho, Melnick, they arrive at OVITT Family Community Library, engaging in what is criminal summoning while OVITT is gang stalking, and then engaging in what is calling the gang members, just like you hear this demon over here, while they're in the wrong, they're being documented, they are obsessively engaged in conspiring your murder and stalking you, and the entity is engaged in what is abusing a system and seeking to maintain a narrative where, again, the ordinary target individual doesn't have evidence. That's how that operates. They don't have evidence. They can't prove it. You're going against a bully system. You're going against a population, and you're going against the government. The gang stalking gang members of the any police department, not just Ontario, wherever you're at. That's just how it works in general. Okay, so the entity will send the demon that kidnapped you, that already engaged in violating you, kidnapped you, and had you sexually assaulted at the San Antonio Regional Hospital. That's T.Cho. That's Melnick. That was present at the kidnapping in January 13, 2020. All right, or Jason Knighton is engaged in battery. Him and Lester Keys engaged in battery, damaging my property, stealing my property also. Engaged in what is maintaining a fictitious prosecution. Mary Wendy Victor 2000640. That was a fictitious prosecution. You don't even have a real DA. D. Ramos is not a real person, not on the California bar. That fake name is on a declaration of probable cause, where Shenifer Hertu, who's not a judge, is engaged in what is giving me a it is a fictitious prosecution, but it's an untimely arraignment and what is a fictitious case pursuant to what is a act of kidnapping by these gang stalkers who are stalking Ontario police in concert with the people of the state. You know what OVITT Family Community Library is engaged in. And they arrived pursuant to kidnapping that T. Cho committed. That's to trigger you. That Jay Melnick committed. That's to trigger you. While the entity is stalking by the Ontario International Airport, you can see Cho on video. Hey, Erica, how's it going? And you can see the demon flying in a commercial airline plane, fake sun over the top of my head, hovering right here at the OVITT Family Community Library. As you understand that system, this is how you're going to break down these videos, because these demons are going to prison. They're going to federal prison for this. The entities engaging in what is triggering. This is how they engage in what is targeting you and seeking to criminally defame your character. This is what Tracy Banks and Jason Fields and Eric Spencer and Tommy Allen Banks, that's what they're relying on. They're banking on. So they solicited this system in order to target me, and they just knew that it was going to work because nobody ever goes against the government. Nobody ever proves that the criminal is are the police. They have a solid system that nobody has ever successfully confronted, and you can't. Right? And that's the impossible. You're absolutely right. But Christ can. All things are possible through him. And I want to be clear, they've already lost the case. I want to be clear. The decision has already been made. They already lost. Okay, so I just wanted to let that sit there for a second. And it's also going to be in a courtroom where you're going to witness that. But these are the tactics that they employ. This is why I also publish the evidence, because it's not just for funsies, honey. It's not just because, yes, you see on the evidence, yes, everywhere that I'm going, that is evidence of stalking and harassment on its face. You're even down to analyzing their tactics. Every demon that arrives, Sequoia Payton, engaged in what is kidnapping me with Jonathan Burnett, while she's ostensibly focused on a car accident that happens on Euclid Avenue, while the fake sun is over me, on podcast before I encounter criminal summoning by that department. The entity is flying, stalking me by helicopter. Then I encounter the car accident where an entity will, in the same way that they have a whole society of people stalking me, surveillance of me. You're using a whole police department and a fire department, just in an airport, just to surveil me. Just me. That's speaking to spiritual power and authority, by the way, that demons don't have, even millions of them together. Spiritually inferior. Yes, they go to those extents. No, you are not a worthless human being. Especially those of you who are, none of you are, no one is, okay? Even those that have yet to come to Christ Jesus, it's unfortunate if you're walking with Satan, but you were not designed that way. You're not made for that. But in other words, you were made in God's image and you have infinite worth. And this is, again, a lie. The entity likes to suggest, which is also a lie, nobody's gang stalking you because, whoa, why are you that important? Oh, you're absolutely that important. It's spiritual authority, spiritual power. These demons, these people are dead. They're demons. They're sucking the spiritual life out of you. That's why they go to that. That's why they spend millions of dollars. That's why they do that. It's a sacrifice unto Satan. This is how they acquire wealth. This is how they acquire influence. They sacrifice things and people unto Satan. And they are getting, in exchange, they make transactions with the devil where they believe that they are going to gain from that, but Satan is a liar. Satan is also a cheater. He doesn't have any loyalty in him. He does not engage in what is actually friendship with anyone. He will use you as long as he can, and to the farthest extent that he can also, and he will move on to the next, like I stated before, like an uncompensated prostitute. The entities engaged in this pattern of conduct, and it's the work of Satan. And they are targeting one who they know identifies, I know that they're demons, and I also have the ability to prove to you, even those who are not believers, that these are demons, because we could sit down and reason together. There's no scientific explanation regarding this environment. That in and of itself is a concession regarding the spiritual realm, in case you didn't realize that. Okay? Your thoughts that are invisible, that's an indication regarding the spiritual realm. This is demonic, what they're doing under a fake sun. This is demonic, that light activity over this demon's vehicle in the parking garage at nightfall. This is demonic. These are demons that are very much threatened by who I am. Yes, they spend millions of dollars very much invested in targeting somebody like me that threatens everything that they're engaged in. They put out their businesses. They put the whole government at work. They solicit a whole gang stalking entity. That's what my gangs, my fake demon-possessed family members and fake demon-possessed friends have shared in. And they sacrifice themselves. They sacrifice themselves. That's what they did. They bet on what they thought was a safe bet because typically they accomplish murdering people. Typically they accomplish defaming them. Nobody's ever acquired any evidence proving that the government is monitoring, and nobody could before now even define what is monitoring. Okay? The P.O.C. is putting it in terms that are both scientific, logical, with regard to what is the legal ramifications, the legal context, and also that which is inevitably speaking to the reality of the spiritual realm. All of that all together. Okay? Nobody's ever done that before. And that is a very specific purpose with regard to breaking down and analyzing the criminal activity of malicious actors who engage in what is seeking to trigger an American citizen. And you'll see that ongoing pattern in the video documentation in the podcast, in all of the evidence of this Ontario Police Department that's been targeting. I will be prosecuting. I'm going to let you know. I will be prosecuting this agency. I will be prosecuting this state. Okay? The entities engaged in this conduct together and their games, they've been playing games, and they've been playing games with their own lives. That's what they're going to find out. Okay, these are demons, and the Lord God said, he sits on the throne outside of time. He's already stated how this is going to end. The entity's been playing with its own life while they're so focused on targeting me that they don't understand that they've already been surrounded. While they're stalking me, and they've already been surrounded. Every tactic that's been employed. It is serving to inform, to provide a study, to publicly expose the ways in which the medical field, law enforcement, the legal field, the ways in which the criminal justice system operate, and it's facilitating this very conduct that starts on the streets. Criminal surveillance that's starting with corrupt police departments. And demons that feel like they have some sort of checkmate, but I'm going to call the police. That very activity coming out of his face, that's exactly why you have the policies that are necessary. That's exactly why. Because you will never be uttering that, thinking that that's a chip, that you've got some sort of leverage. No, you don't. You're going to watch your mouth because you'll end up in prison just like that. Just like that. I am not playing. The entity's engaging in that P.O.C., and that's the very way in which the entities engage in that in a pattern of conduct that's designed to not only falsely depict, but also insulate itself from exposure. So with regard to the video evidence, that's what I want to remind you about. It is there, and you are able to look at the ways in which the entity abuses the medical field while they're triggering people, and it creates the illusion only on the surface, only with regard to a corrupt entity, and that corrupt entity can't do it without a corrupt medical field, basically. Those that are in the medical field that are serving this corrupt system, they can't do it without that, because they know very well. Remember, and this is the other part. It's very this is very malicious conduct. Not only do they know that while they're targeting you, they know that you're gifted. They know that you're advanced. They know that you're a law-abiding citizen. They know that X, Y, and Z. These are demons that are monitoring you, and they know that you're not mentally ill. That's the reality. So if you thought that there's no ability that people know your thoughts and that people don't know what you're thinking, you're right. People don't, but demonic spirits that are monitoring, yes, they do. That's the reality. And they are the ones that are spiritually attacking you. Things like thoughts of harming yourself. That's a spiritual attack. Those are thoughts that don't belong to you. Those are thoughts that don't belong to you, and you're not crazy. You're not a paranoid schizophrenic, and you certainly don't need medication because of that. You're being spiritually attacked by demons who know what you're thinking. In fact, they put thoughts in your mind. That's an example, okay? The entities engaging in what is spiritually attacking you, they know very well that you're not mentally ill. They are engaged in spiritually attacking you in order to create what they need is an illusion, because with that illusion, then you sit in the corrupt court that will adjudicate in that regard that is a kidnapping. Pursuant to, and I've shown you the fake center over those courts, they are very much engaged in targeting. Okay? They are very much engaged in targeting American citizens whom they know very well are not demons like them. They're targeting, and it does serve there are demons that are prosecuted and railroaded and whatnot. This is a system altogether. But this is serving for persecution, those that walk with Christ, those that are a threat to these demons. Oh yeah, they know who you are, and they are targeting those that, for example, have, like what the entity has done to me as well. The Ontario International Airport repeatedly kidnapping me with the Ontario police, seeking to steal my money. And you think that stalking somebody in commercial airline planes is going to make that person look mentally ill? That's where they went wrong, because it's not. In fact, the exact opposite is going to happen. The demons that are gang stalking, proven by evidence, over a term of years, by the way, that is engaged in stalking with commercial planes and stalking as a whole airport, as a whole government system, meaning a population of sickos, the entity is going to be mentally assessed accordingly. Okay, you are going to be subject to what is the actual recognition of what is mental illness, behavioral health issues that are inherent to a population of demon-possessed people who are engaged in what is formally a targeting system that was unspoken of, never proven, totally secretly in existence. And it is what celebrities benefit from. It's what governments benefit from. It's what the population benefits from. Everybody eating off of my inheritance. You're getting paid to gang stalk me out of money that belongs to me. Oh, you know very well about Tracy and Jason Isaac Fields writing out checks to people in order to target me. You're aware of that? This is an entity that's engaging in this P.O.C. and this is essentially putting a lot, I said it earlier and I'm going to say it again. When the entity is sending a whole population, a government, a police department to engage in targeting an American citizen, you're going to federal prison for that. This is how terrorism is executed in the United States, through a corrupt government. Okay? And like I stated, these are demons that are monitoring you. So it's even deeper than the fact that they're just trying to frame you to make you look like you're crazy. Don't be deceived in thinking that they don't know that you're not. They know that you're not mentally ill. They are attacking you to create what is the appearance only on the surface, because it's only on the surface. And that's only serving for what is corrupt, because actually I'm showing you what does not look like mental illness on the surface. When you're triggering somebody by engaging in what is a federal offense, such as criminal summoning, and you want to bring the one that kidnapped on January 13, 2020, the one that engaged in kidnapping on August 6, 2019, you want to bring around the one that engaged in kidnapping and harassing you and stealing your property before that. You want to engage in what is speaking to the target individual while the entity is stalking you by helicopter in the background, while they're flying in the background. Hey, Erica, like a demon. And you can see the entity hovering on commercial plane while they're monitoring under a fake sun. While the people that are sitting around stalking with light activity, they're all sitting around monitoring you. That's the entity that's engaging in what is seeking to trigger and looking for you to react in some way. And that reaction is not mental illness. Even if an American citizen does act out, you are able to recognize these tactics. These are methods of seeking to defame, while you will always be seen as the stalker. And there will never again be this ongoing system serving to distract from what is criminal monitoring by a demon-possessed and psychopathic entity. Because that's how that operates. And I have a wealth of evidence showing how the Ontario Police Department have exhibited severe mental illness while engaging in what is triggering conduct that is synonymous with what is psychological torture. Okay, that's how you refer to that under the law. War tactics. And the entity does so. That is proof that they are targeting you amongst those that are in the medical field and those that are in the legal field in order to defame your character. And moreover, they're demons and they know that you're not mentally ill. They're spiritually attacking you. They're in your pristine mind. They're in your pure spirit. All right? And they are monitoring you. They're attacking you. They hate you and the Christ Jesus that you serve. They're spiritually attacking you. Okay, now those that are not impervious to such witchcraft attacks, those that are not impervious to, and understand that my being impervious insofar as the entity sought to attack me, and the reason why it didn't work is so that I would bear testimony to the reality of Christ Jesus. That's why. Okay, because I live to survive, to let you know what they're doing. I am the proof that they're doing it. And they're going to answer for it, and it's going to establish precedent because they're never getting away with it ever again. That is justice that comes from God Almighty. His name is Christ Jesus. Okay. Now, this is literally the evidence. This is how extensive my evidence is. This is the entity that's engaged in. I've got thousands. I've got over 8,000 videos right now, and I'm publishing more with regard to the entity that committed kidnapping. The city of Ontario is the one that's committed kidnapping over and over again, and the city of Ontario is going to be gutted out as a result. And with regard to targeting domestic terrorists in the United States, any corrupt targeting agency like the Ontario Police, they will be disbanded when they are kidnapping American citizens that are enforcing their rights, when they've been targeted by the Nephilim. Okay? The entities engaging, and by targeted, I mean when they have been kidnapped. They're kidnapping you, they're stalking you, and they think that they're also then going to put you in while you're going to be disbanded. Okay? This is what the entity is doing so while they seek to obstruct justice. There is a body of evidence that's showing that the demon-possessed, the Nephilim, are mentally ill, and you're looking at the tactics that the entity employs while they're doing so. The entity doesn't get the result that it's looking for. The entity is always being met with what is evidence. The entity is engaging in what is the pattern of conduct while they are stalking. Wells Fargo is stalking. And so are the demons at the Sarah's Regis Group, 320 North Euclid Avenue. And let me remind you about his license plate again, because he's gang stalking right now while they are together speaking and harassing as one. That demon that was engaging in that pattern of conduct is doing so on behalf of this government, still stalking in relevant position. That delusional psychopath's license plate that's gang stalking me with the Ontario International Airport, which is exposing all of the city of Ontario. This demon's license plate is license 9TRS 934. In relevant position, gang stalking with the demons that are maintaining criminal activity at Wells Fargo, sharing with the government that's stalking over the Ontario Town Square. The entity is engaged in what is an ongoing study that I've provided in video, a substantial video evidence, over 8,000 videos that I have, much of which includes, a large percentage of it includes targeting suffered by the city of Ontario, specifically the Ontario Police Department, and all the tactics of seeking to kidnap via criminal defamation. Criminal defamation where the entity is engaging in what is the illusion of mental illness when you are ignorant about a targeting system. And the entity's one of the main tactics is to target you in one way, in a malicious manner. And this is the entity that does so because there's no criminal case. There's no evidence of it. And also the entity is always ostensibly engaging in what they're free to do while you have yet to, for example, prosecute in a federal court. So in other words, they're just engaging in terrorism until the day that they're sitting in federal court for it, which is also very foolish, because that's also going to be relevant to how long you're going to prison. But nonetheless, this is what the entity does. So you'll have those that previously kidnapped you arrive pursuant to criminal summoning with the, for example, OVITT Family Community Library, who's monitoring my vagina in the bathroom, doing so on behalf of that agency. And then that agency that you're documenting on a daily and nightly, ongoing, ceaseless basis, stalking you in helicopters as well, are engaged in what then arriving in uniforms, lying even about why they're there. The OVITT Family Community Library lying about what happened, what you did, while they're all engaging in surveillance as one. This is the entity that's engaged in proof that the entity is targeting you through the medical profession, because that is not the evidence of mental illness. They're engaging in that pattern of conduct as a whole comprehensive corrupt system. And the entity is engaging in this P.O.C. with regard to what is necessitating federal prison all the way around. The gang stalkers in the court, the gang stalker is relevant to abuse of the medical field, and the gang stalkers that are a part of the Ontario Police Department who are monitoring while the entity is engaging in what is louder plane activity. Pay attention to everything that I do, everything that I speak. The entity gets very loud. The train activity, the gang stalking sirens, and the entity that is willing to engage in what is admitting that you're stalking as an airport, because when you're taking off over what is the Ontario Airport Inn, there's no plane activity when you're hovering over the Ontario Town Square, when you should have already taken off, because that's what I captured on video at 10:10 in the morning. This is the entity that engages in what is loud activity while they listen to what is an very indicting commentary and analysis regarding stalking and stalking tactics. When you are stalking, you will always be seen and viewed and analyzed as a stalker, and in no position to defame an American citizen who is the subject of your stalking. However, this is the corrupt system that the government has currently been maintaining, including now while you're listening to it. Stalking. And under no circumstances does the practice of medicine or the practice of law does it accurately or appropriately or justly include defaming an American citizen and denigrating their character when they are subject to what is proven targeting by that government. That is not assessing mental illness while you are being targeted. There's no mental illness that is relevant there by the target individual that's being targeted. And with regard to being targeted by that entity, which is proven, there is no basis whereby you have any jurisdiction under the law to prosecute for any means whereby you are enforcing your rights. You're documenting. The government's stalking you. Absolutely. The entities engaged in what is criminal summoning, false allegations, while you're that's a method of targeting. The entities engaging in what is the practice of law, and that's what you're using in order to what is maintain hearings, in order to target this American citizen with the abuse, the criminal misuse of the criminal justice system, of the court system, while they are always seeking to and necessarily need to denigrate your character so that you don't have any legitimacy, so that you don't have a voice, so that you're not taken seriously, so that it is immediately written off. This is what the entity tried to do. This is what Tracy Banks, Jason Fields, this is what the gang stalking family, this is what their purpose was. And they also, as you'll pay attention to, as the facts show, they had to do this behind my back. Because you are not somebody with my abilities, somebody with my background. You're not able to effectively do that. You're not able to actually do that in my face while I'm given all of my due process rights, while a judge is not targeting me in concert with you and permitting that libelous and perjurious testimony to go forward in my absence with my ignorance, while I just so happen to be engaged in this ongoing public investigation. That's not a coincidence. That's the entity that sought to silence me before I even had an opportunity to prove. That's the entity that thought that they were cutting me off. No, they were proving the very allegations that this investigation is speaking to in the first place. But the purpose of it is so that the entity is able to get away with stealing my money as well. You're not just envious of my skill set. You're not just scared because I'm able to expose them as the Nephilim. They want my money. They want my property. They want to get away with stealing my house. While you're out here talking, you're stalking me. You're being paid to stalk me. You're obsessed with me while you're stalking. You've stolen from me, and then that's the same material that you're relying on, and that I'm supposed to be insulted by that? I just want to be clear. If I'm so broke and I'm so homeless, I'm so low, why are you stalking me while I'm outside? Because that's what they're doing. What do you see the Ontario Police Department doing while I'm sleeping outside on the bench? And guess what? I'm winning a federal prosecution of the U.S. government while doing so. Don't forget that point. But what are they doing while I'm sleeping outside on the bench? They're stalking. They're stalking. They're stalking somebody that's sleeping outside. That's how important I am, right? What are they doing with these, the whole airport? You're using your airline? A whole airline company is using your commercial. What are they doing? They're stalking. Oh yeah, they're following me up the street. They're following me up the street. There are no planes that are flying over there right now. They're maintaining on the south side of my person. There are no planes that would be hovering over the Woodside Senior Apartments or hovering over F Street in Euclid. There are no planes that will be hovering coming from the terminals when you're taking off in the first place. But what are they doing while I'm sleeping outside? I'm so much of a homeless, you can fill in, think of the most meanest thing that you can come up with. You're stalking me. You're stalking me while I'm outside. You have somewhere to live, but you're coming outside to stalk me though. You're spending thousands of dollars gassing up all them helicopters in those planes to stalk me. Yeah, that's what you're doing. You're stalking me. That's the reality. Those are the facts. And they also are proven through the body of evidence. Not only is it evidence of stalking very plain on its head, I'm showing you very obvious stalking. In other words, that's what I mean. Because you might get miles when I use the word plain and I'm referring to stalking using airplanes. But I mean plain, P-L-A-I-N, obvious. Okay, conspicuous. The entities, and it is conspicuous with flight over your head, flight next to you, flight around you, flight in relevant position, in other words, while the fake sun is over you. It's not the natural environment. That is conspicuous stalking. Okay, these are delusional psychopaths. They think their facial expression and they think flying or near in alignment to you and then making a U-turn. The entities, these are delusional psychopaths that are going to be prosecuted and certified. No joke. They're going to be certified. But the entity, more than just that conspicuous stalking, the entity is engaged in very malicious tactics, psychological torture. The entity is utilizing psychological torture in order to defame American citizens. That's how this system operates. And psychological torture is demonic. It's Satan's tactic. Okay? Not touching you. I'm not punching you in your face to trigger you. I'm just going to send the demons that make false allegations against you, and I'm going to use the same ones that kidnapped you last time, where you were subject to sexual assault and battery at San Antonio when we kidnapped you. I'm going to send those demons to come and make some false allegations, and then we'll see if we can get a reaction out of her then. All right, that's the entity that's engaging in psychological torture with the same demons, stalking by plane and helicopter, doing so under a fake sun that doesn't go anywhere. That's the entity that's going to federal prison. Okay? Understand how that works. And it's already on the record. These are the demons that engage in what is giving me years of evidence. And now you're understanding what you're going to do with that evidence, what the evidence proves beyond a reasonable doubt. In fact, it's proven to a scientific degree. That's the entity that's engaging in the P.O.C. While you hear that? Michael Gerken's threatening my life. The demon is driving by with a fire truck that's light activity, while Securitas is gang stalking crossing path. And the entity sounds as though that sounds like gunfire. Those are demons that are scared to death. Demons that are monitoring my vagina, trying to yell out insults, and you're scared while you sound what's supposed to be a gunshot, but you're going to legally analyze that. While Michael Gerken is proven to be engaged in gang stalking demons that are bat poo crazy, using fire trucks to keep me under surveillance while I'm sleeping outside, and you're supposed to be speaking out insults, and that's supposed to make everybody think that you're not obsessed with my vagina, and everybody knows better. Everybody knows better, and everybody's witnessing that. Everybody's also going to witness what is the ongoing study regarding the tactics of the demon possessed that are engaged in what is using psychological torture to criminally defame American citizens. And it is going to be the disbanding of the Ontario Police. It is going to be the permanent removal of the Ontario Fire Department. It is going to be the shutdown of the Ontario International Airport. All right, AMR, they're not even a legitimate or actual ambulance. They're not EMTs. They're demons. They're engaged in surveillance using ambulances. Absurd, pathetic, very psychotic. I mean, you are really crazy. You're stalking in an ambulance. You're sitting around. You don't even have an actual emergency, and everything that you're doing is centered around somebody that you're stalking. You are very crazy. You're very crazy. You have a lot of issues. And the entity engages in what is shouting out insults while they are embarrassed based on facts, okay? Your insults are not louder than these facts. The fact that you're obsessed with my vagina, absolutely, I'm going to embarrass you with that. That's the truth. Nobody believes your insults. Everybody knows that you're obsessed with me. Everybody also knows that you're inferior to me. Everybody knows that you're stalking me. And everybody knows and is witnessing your prosecution. The entities engaged in this, you will see the Ontario Police Department utilizing these tactics. These are bully tactics. These are passive-aggressive tactics. These are psychopathic. They're very maniacal. And also, there's supposed to be, there's this duality with regard to what is supposed to be subtle, but it's not subtle. There's nothing subtle about Jonathan Burnett and Sequoia Payton kidnapping on May 4th, 2019, and then under the fake sun, engaging what is centering their attention. This is evidence that's going to be used to assess Sequoia Payton and Corey Walton and the entity that's gang stalking as an agency, as a fire department, as the people of the state that have a car crash. That car crash is happening under the fake sun. The entity that spends millions of dollars using planes and helicopters to stalk me, they engage in what are staging car accidents to monitor me. Yes, they do that. Okay? And the Ontario Police are not the first ones. So while I'm documenting this, you're going to pay attention to their tactics. You're going to pay attention to their tactics. Everybody knows that the gang stalk in the hallmark is a helicopter. Everybody already knows that you're doing it under the fake sun. I want you to pay attention to Satan's tactics. And those tactics are exactly why gang stalking police are going to prison and they're getting mental examinations. Okay? That's the P.O.C. Now listen up real close, because that's the entity that's stalking and speaking out insults while they're doing so under the specific environment. That's the entity that's going to prison. That's the entity that's serving for federal prison of Mike LORENZ and Derek Williams. Guess where they're going? Federal prison. Okay? Engaging in kidnapping in May 2019, that's Derek Williams. Engaging in kidnapping in 2020, in 2021, in 2022, in 2025. That's Mike LORENZ, and again, exchanging with hands by Derek Williams into Mike LORENZ's ongoing criminal engagement as a domestic terrorist. Not only are the terrorists themselves, but the terrorist leader are going to be prosecuted. And Paul Leon has been engaged in surveillance the entire time. The entire time. They're doing so in concert with the Ontario Police Department, and all of their tactics are there for you to study. They're there for public exposure. And another method of Satan, understand that when you are aware of it, then it will have less power over you. And the entity also has been very confused. There is no mental illness when you're dealing with somebody that is relying on maintaining order and logical and legal reasoning while you are documenting amongst the chaos. That is including a demon that's calling me out of my name, and I'm responding with it with, no, that's your mother, and keep speaking because the demons of the Ontario police that are stalking right now, that's why he's going to prison. Those are the ones, and that's why terrorists feel like they're empowered to call on the gang members who are stalking. That's a threat. Who are you threatening in the U.S.? Who you think you're threatening? You're going to prison. Who do you think you're threatening, Satan? You're going to federal prison. That's the entity that's engaged in gang violence. The demons that just flew over by helicopter. Who's that one? Who's the one that's engaged in that P.O.C? They're on Wells Fargo cameras at 8:55 p.m. stalking. They're putting in their PIN numbers. They're on surveillance cameras. They're stalking on the sidewalk, stalking with light activity. They're gang stalking on the roads and the highways. The entity is being surrounded with evidence right now. I'm going to prosecute them all together. Just want to be clear that nobody's getting away with anything. They're always serving my prosecutorial purposes. They are documenting themselves. I'm going to use the whole system and prosecute where everybody's at and what everybody's doing at the moment that they're doing it. In addition to that, the bigger picture is that Mike LORENZ is going to be prosecuted for the pattern of conduct of what is psychological torture that department practices while they're stalkers. And they stalk with the people of the state who engage in summoning them to share in stalking together while they derive pleasure out of documented psychological torture tactics, which are serving the corrupt targeting purposes of demons in the medical field and demons in the legal profession, in the court system, where they are also monitoring you, targeting you. Not only are they sharing in the pattern of conduct, not only are their hands made dirty, meaning the entity is engaged in gang stalking by that police department, so you don't have any jurisdiction under the law as the sheriff nor as the court, but it's even deeper than that. It's more deliberate and malicious than that because they are gang stalking as well. That's where the fake sun is over you amongst the sheriffs at their facilities and the courts at those courthouses. And it's even deeper than that. They're demons that are monitoring you, and they know that you're not mentally ill. They know that you didn't commit any crime. They're all up in your spirit, all up in your spiritual energy, if you will. They know what it is. They know who you are. It's that detail. There is no accident. This is very deliberate, diligent, detailed surveillance. Gang stalking judges, they're going to prison. They're going to federal prison. And this is where their little psychological torture tactics that permits Kara Hudson to kidnap me in a court. So while she's denying me court hearings, which she knows would not go well for the purposes of this targeting entity, because once I get a moment to speak with regard to what I've been denied, while you don't even have the right under the law in the first place, she's going to prison. There's no statute of limitations. She's going to prison. She's going to federal prison. These are hard facts. And the demons that are screaming on the sidewalk while they're stalking, they're doing so on behalf of the government. Oh, these government actors, they have real names. They've committed serious crimes. The entity engages in psychological torture with regard to, in other words, those tactics are not only there for you to study and recognize, it's showing that they are acting in conformity to a corrupt system. They need to create that illusion because then they're engaging in what is kidnapping and defaming you with demons who are in the medical field who also know that you're not mentally ill, but they need that illusion in order to then defame you so that they can kidnap you, so they can steal from you. That's how that system works. And none of that works against me. You're not getting any sort of illusion of mental illness. This is not a crash out. I'm maintaining all my faculties. I'm also going to let you know it's your mother that's a bee, not me. That's your little bastard kids. Those are the little bees. That's not me. Don't get me confused while Satan is embarrassed because you're being documented. That's the entity. That's not a crash out. That's the Satan being put in his place, and I'm going to keep on documenting you. You're speaking as the state, the very state that's stalking in helicopters. Let me remind you about this demon's license plate, because they're going to federal prison for threatening to engage in criminal summoning. That in the same way, OVITT Family Community Library, criminal summoning, you're going to federal prison. That's the entity that's engaging in that. So I want to be clear, 9TRS 364. This is the entity in engineer light, under the fake moon, flying over the top of my head again, always finding where I'm located, always finding where I'm at, flying over me again. They're engaging in that pattern of conduct while that demon's license plate. And I want to be clear, this is because they're scared. This is an entity that's, again, unfortunately, their witchcraft has backfired miserably. And not only are they going to be spiritually judged with regard to death spirits that they sent toward me that are going back to attack them and those that are connected to them, they're going to federal prison. While they thought that they were going to manifest my kidnapping and my ultimate death, they are the ones that have manifested death. They are the ones that have manifested poverty. They're the ones that have manifested prison. because that's exactly what's happening. The entity is going to engage in what is the P.O.C. with the people of the state. And I want to be clear, who's gang stalking me at all that audible activity you heard with the entity that's feeling as though you can just call the gang members? You call these gang members, you're going to prison. That's what's happening with OVITT Family Community Library. You're going to federal prison. The ordinary targeted individual is kidnapped. The ordinary targeted individual is railroaded. The ordinary targeted individual is defamed. The ordinary targeted individual is likely to end up anywhere and not get out, disappear and absorbed into the system. And whatever the government says, or if the government doesn't say anything at all, they can just come up on the news as being MIA, and you don't know that they're kidnapped in a facility somewhere and they come up dead. This is all manner of ways of causing you to disappear. From kidnapping by gang members like the Ontario Police Department, who are engaging in things such as kidnapping you, and then a sheriff's department which is kidnapping you in its facilities, not giving you an arraignment. What are you doing? They're just keeping you there? They're engaging in what is putting you on camera as though you're going for a court hearing. You don't even go to a court hearing. They're kidnapping you and literally progressively causing you to just erase off, just be absorbed into the system. When you're missing, you can be enveloped within the system. That's kidnapping, and anything can happen to you. Anything. This is an entity that engages in just that. They commit murders while you're looking at them stalking me. What's the psychopath's license plate that's talking about that's who you're going to call? Again, license plate 9TRS934. It's directly incriminating evidence when the entity is engaged in what is summoning the gang members themselves who commit kidnappings. And they are in hundreds, if not thousands of videos of employing psychological torture tactics. The entity is engaged in what is criminal summoning with those that have committed kidnapping. They do so with those that have engaged in what are acts of violence, acts of violating my property, stealing my property, and that's the entity that engages in that. And by virtue of using those tactics, understand that it is also relevant to your knowledge regarding corroborating what it is that I've already stated is a fact. They're gang stalking you with the rest of the system. That's how they're engaged in what is defaming. This is how that corrupt system works. They're doing so because they need you to react in a certain way. This is how psychological torture is supposed to create the illusion of what is mental illness when you are reacting as a human being. You're reacting as a human being, and you may, okay, I'm not stating that I think that you should, but what I am stating is that you cannot prescribe how a normal human being is going to react when they've been targeted in ways that you don't even know about. So all you're doing is looking at one angle. They get a body cam of the so-called defendant, the one that's being targeted, okay? They get body cam of them cussing out the officer or cussing out the people of the state that have engaged in violating them. That's not on the body cam. None of that's a part of what's happening. All they want is that body cam footage of the so-called criminal, of the so-called mentally ill. This is the entity that's engaging in all manner of triggering, like the CEASELESS Regis is right now, stalking with impossible light while the demons are stalking by helicopter. Gang violence shared right now at what is currently 9:03 p.m. And then those demons like D. Ramos and Christ, like Joseph Velasquez, they're all going to federal prison. Every name that I'm speaking to right now. Joseph Velasquez, Vivanco, the entity that's engaged in kidnapping at this Ontario Town Square, they're going to federal prison while they're targeting in the same way. And they utilize what is psychological torture, also engage in what is false allegations. Who did I harass when I didn't even speak to anybody? And who are you harassing when you're maintaining an ongoing investigation because the government is a criminal, engaged in unprecedented targeting that's never been proven, and so you have to undertake that task yourself? Who are you harassing? Because that's not harassment at all. They're going to federal prison for that. So I just want to let you, they're going to federal prison for that. Demons that are yelling out that they are cussing you out, harassing you, and talking about they're going to call the police that are gang members. They're the same gang. The demons that are stalking right now, speaking to federal prison for that demon in the parking garage at CEASELESS Regis Group at 320 North Euclid Avenue, speaking as the state while the entity in a helicopter is stalking, while these demons in commercial planes are stalking. That's the entity that's speaking as a gang member. That's a gang member speaking, okay? Engaging in gang violence. Gang leaders like Mike Lorenz and Derek Williams, they're going to be put in federal prison. This is terrorism. Gang members that are immigrants in this country, gang leaders that are immigrants in this country. If Atif El-Kadi is not a natural born gang member, because he's a gang member, and if he's not a natural born one, a natural born citizen, he's getting deported. Simple as that. All right, the entities engaged in this P.O.C, and I want to make sure that you understand that the psychological torture tactics is direct evidence informing you about how a system necessarily is acting in conformity to a pattern of conduct with regard to cooperatively engaging in targeting. And they're all demons that are aware of the fact that you're perfectly sane, aware of the fact that you're acting out in a way that any person would, that you, and by the way, I also want to state that the entity that's engaging in, even though I don't encourage, that's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying I encourage you to cuss somebody out and engage in violence and go hit their car if they hit your car, go steal from them if they steal from you. That's not what I'm stating at all. I'm not stating that at all. And by the way, not everybody is called to do what it is that I'm doing, and I do not encourage you to go out here and go about calling yourself documenting the police. This is establishing precedent so that nobody else has to be subject to this type of threat that I am being publicly exposed to in order to benefit the public, in order to prosecute the government, okay? But it's establishing precedent. And I do not encourage, because not everybody has the ability to do that. I'm just going to be frank with you, okay? But I do want to be clear that the entities engaging in this, and it is relevant to what is speaking to the existence of a greater system. The entities engage in psychological torture with regard to seeking to defame your character because there is a need for them to try to falsely depict you in one way or another so that they can accomplish kidnapping. That's the purpose, and that's the reason for federal prison of gang stalking police. So what am I stating? The very fact of, which I have substantial video evidence of, the very fact of them utilizing these tactics to create the illusion of mental illness is speaking to the existence of a greater system, not an anomaly, not just mean police officers in Ontario, not just unprofessional agency, not just unprofessionalism here. It's speaking to a greater system. And I've also shown that in the specific environment. Everybody under the fake sun at that courthouse, everybody under the fake sun at that hospital, everybody under the fake sun at that facility of the sheriff, everybody under that fake sun at that police department. This is what they do to American citizens, where you don't know that this system is in operation and you don't understand the significance of what it is that you're being targeted with. Okay? You can't trigger me. I already know how the system works. And I'm not triggered by some demon that's obsessed with me. And I'll just speak the truth. I don't have to know your mother. I know that she's a vagina monitoring demon. I know that. And who he's actually talking about, his mother. Okay? So this is the entity that's engaging in that pattern of conduct. And typically, this is the entity that uses what is a human reaction as some sort of guise of mental illness. And that's not. And neither is that the practice of law. That is also not the practice of medicine. And it's also a distraction. You are always superseding what is the criminal conduct of the government. So this is the whole distraction. What about the fact that the government is stalking? This is the entity that's engaged. You are necessarily corrupt. You don't have that ongoing. How do you have that? Because they're corrupt. Because they're corrupt. That's how you get that absurd result. Because they are corrupt. In addition to the specific environment to prove to you that the result that they're corrupt and that they're demons. And then not that they're imperfect and that they're making accidents and oversights over and over and over and over and over and over and over again, and that it's not a pattern. That's impossible, by the way. But that they're demons and that they're monitoring, they're targeting. And I want to be clear. I want to be very clear. You're gang stalking in courtrooms, and you are delusional if you think that you're sitting on some ivory tower and you're holding a gavel in your hand, and that nobody sees what you're doing, nobody's able to prove what you're responsible for, what you're complicit to, what you are directly and maliciously facilitating and engaging in, and that you're going to stay out of federal prison for it. Why? Because they are permanently augmenting the liberty rights and the human rights of American citizens, where they are targeting by sitting on the bench. And because of that massive violation of the rights, the oath that you take, the betrayal of this country, that represents the state, wherever that's at. Where it's the federal government, that represents the U.S. government. That's the entity together. You represent all of that while you're engaged in gang stalking, which is a term of art. Facilitating this pattern of conduct while you are holding some sort of court case behind these gang members. Oh, you're going to prison. You're going to federal prison. The entities engaged in this P.O.C, and I want to be clear, they're doing so while they are sitting in positions on the bench. And you need to understand that you are not different from Osama bin Laden. You are going to prison. You're going to prison because of the unlawful threat posed to the average American citizen who cannot compare. Okay, they cannot measure up with regard to that power, that position that is designed to bully an American citizen. And they say in a courtroom, on a court document, they say that you're mentally ill, that you're being committed. No, you're going to prison for that. You're going to federal prison. This is the entity that commits kidnapping by abusing their positions on the bench. This is the entity that commits kidnapping by abusing their positions as sheriff's deputies, by law enforcement, in other words. And they're exchanging hands. Not only are you going to prison because your demons who are monitoring, which my evidence shows the P.O.C, i.e. the fake sun over that courthouse, over that sheriff's department, over that police department, or over that vehicle of those demons operating those vehicles, operating through those means of the government. They're demons, but not moreover, they're doing so pursuant to a system. You need to understand it's the same route to federal prison where you are encountering the target individual through the kidnapping of that city. Understand, it's going to be a federal investigation. The feds are going to start with who kidnapped them. They understand what the P.O.C is. It's going to they exchange hands with the sheriff, and then they exchange hands, and they were sitting before who's the honorable Nephilim of Jones. They're going to prison. That's how it's going to work. You engaged in what is kidnapping. You're operating through the corrupt, the filthy hands of the kidnappers, the gang members. I'm documenting out here. You think that you're going to prison. You're kidnapping with them. You're going to federal prison. That's how that whole system operates. That's the whole system right there. That's the meat and potatoes right there. That's how they do it. So they trigger you, and then you're supposed to be mentally ill while you're looking at the 32 seconds of body cam that shows you cussing out say you're cussing out the librarian who busted in the bathroom stall because she was stating that you're in there sniffing a line of cocaine and you tried to kidnap a little kid, like something ridiculous like that. This is the type of lying that they do. You can't prove it. They're all denying, no, she didn't. The librarian did not. She did not even go in the bathroom. You know, they're lying. They are always in here. We are scared to death. This is what gang members do. And then they commit a kidnapping. They commit criminal summoning. Here come the gang members that are stalking every day, every night, everywhere you're going. Gang stalking with the people of the state, who then are lying on you, calling in the gang members themselves who are bearing guns. Okay, they can shoot you dead and then give a reason as to why. And the entity will engage in what is backing those gang members that are murderers, bearing false witness, justifying what was the use of force for whatever reason. That's always the threat to your life. That's why gang stalking police officers are going to prison, because they're bearing guns, and that's a threat to your life right there. You're a whole psychopath, and you have a gun on you're going to prison. You think this is literally what they're doing. They think I'm going to stalk you. I'm going to play cops and robbers while I'm stalking you. I'm going to use the helicopters of that police department while I'm stalking you. I'm going to be a whole light slinging gargoyle while I'm stalking you, representing this police department. And I'm going to play chitty chitty bang bang wearing guns like I am like this is a video game, and I'm gonna stalk you just like that, and you're not gonna say anything about it. You're not gonna do anything about it. This is literally the type of absurdity with regard to this corrupt system, because that's literally what they're doing. They're gonna stalk you with guns, and they're gonna stalk you in your face. Like, they're gonna stalk and lie about, yeah, we're here because, because you stole. That's why. Yeah, somebody told us that you stole something, and that's why we're here. Did you steal something? Well, I don't care if you stole something anyway. I'm still gonna search you. This is what they're doing. That's not law enforcement. And by the way, they do that when they're stalking day and night, just like they did 7 minutes ago in helicopter, because they're scared about what it is that I'm stating. These demons are on video utilizing psychological torture tactics while they do so. And it is not evidence of mental illness. Okay? And it certainly isn't mental. That's not even applying to me, because I'm documenting, and me telling a demon what it is, that's not mental illness. That's me. I embarrass these demons. So the entity is engaging in that. And but this is what the ordinary target individual that's not, okay, they're human beings, and they may not be able to compose themselves. They may act out one way or another. Do not be distracted. You are never losing sight of what the focus is. Now that we are all aware that the government is monitoring American citizens, there's more to the picture. There's more at play here. And the government has shown that it's not trustworthy. You can't just believe it because the government says so. The government's a bunch of demons. The government is made up of the Nephilim. All right? And they're very much incentivized to target people. Target people for reasons that you might not be aware of. That doesn't mean it's not happening. Okay? So you're talking about looking at things and taking them into perspective with regard to an investigation. An investigation regarding that agency and that community that is very much engaged in what is targeting. And this is nothing new because the entity that's stalking me under a fake sun in Ontario, they put the whole United States on the map. Because the entity went to the absurdity of keeping a fake sun over the OVITT Family Community Library. What is over the East Coast and Central California, and what is in the South? What is over them in Mississippi? When are they ever seeing the sun? Because I'm documenting it, and you are all witnessing me document what is one sun, and it's remaining over the entry of the OVITT Family Community Library, present after 4 p.m., directly in opposition to what I just documented 24 hours earlier, from 9:18 a.m., specifically from 7:39 a.m. until 5:11 p.m. on video, because I document Satan, because Satan is a liar. And Satan will not be defaming anybody because we're all looking at it together. So the entity is engaging in what is keeping a fake sun in an absurd manner over one building. And when I go away from that building, that fake sun, which would be absent if that was actually the natural environment. But you have this ongoing inconsistency, this documented inconsistency, which is where the demon-possessed that are obsessed with my vagina are yelling out insults while they are embarrassed because they're proven to be stalking me. Okay? Proven to be stalking me, and then talking about you're going to call the police while you're yelling out insults, in denial about what is embarrassing you, about the fact that you're a psychopath, and the fact that you are a light-slinging gargoyle. You're a freak weirdo. You are a life flunky. Okay? You and everybody that's connected to you. That's the reality. That's why this coward is yelling out and stalking a woman in the middle of the night, and he's embarrassed by it. And then he resorts to insults while he's stalking. He's stalking under all circumstances. None of that is evidence with regard to the American citizen that may punch him in the face, the American citizen that may engage in what is, I don't know, some sort of exchange where you are in entertaining, I would say, taking it to whatever degree or level that you find to be demonstrating, which would only be, again, on the level that they want you to look at on the surface, a level to where, oh, you're acting in a manner that's unfitting, and if he's yelling and the target individual is yelling, who's crazy? The one that's stalking with the possible light is actually the one that's crazy. But I just want to be clear with regard to the ordinary target individual. You're talking about not looking at things from some limited perspective, which is what the entity is requiring you to do. While they're engaging in voyeurism, while they're engaging in triggering, while they're engaged in psychological torture. And that is what is captured in the video evidence of what is also very obvious, conspicuous stalking by this agency, including right now while they are keeping the evidence under surveillance, and they're very fearful, and they engage in more obvious stalking conduct by flying again over my head. Flying again over my head. Well, I just so happen to be talking about you. You think that that's a coincidence? It's not. It's not. And by the way, there are no coincidences when you're at a property where the sun rises and sets. There's no coincidences under those circumstances either. And the entity that utilizes psychological torture is an entity that is psychopathic. And the entity that seeks to defame the target individual by utilizing psychological torture is going to be subject to routine mental examinations upon a federal prosecution. And this system is embodied within the P.O.C. The video evidence of the Ontario police that is proven through a pattern of conduct of targeting me, they are doing so with regard to the tactics that you're going to pay attention to and study. This is also helping you to not be triggered by those that utilize psychological torture. It's satanic. That's demonic. Demons are targeting with psychological torture. When you are aware of it, it will have less of an impact on you. It shouldn't bother you at all. Because literally, psychological torture is somebody is bothering you and they want to affect you. That's pretty much, to put it in layman's terms, they want to bother you. They really want to bother you. When somebody is showing to be looking for that result, that should have less of an effect on you. When you know that somebody's looking for some sort of impact on you, that should have less of, that shouldn't bother you at all, because you know that their objective is to bother you. These are the losers that are the Nephilim. These are light slinging gargoyles. These are the demons that I'm embarrassing all over the internet. These are the ones that are going to be used to study regarding actual mental illness, the reassessment and the abuse of the medical field, where this targeting system is facilitating kidnapping and murders, defamation, theft that is committed by corrupt entities. And the very evidence of the targeting by this department is going to be used with regard to that. Okay, it's also going to necessarily change because the entity is engaged in surveillance, because the entity is engaged in what is abuse of the medical field. This is evidence that proves that you are not actually in any position and you don't actually have any legitimate interest, contrary to what has clearly been stated otherwise, for the perceived benefit of American citizens that are supposedly mentally ill and incapable of taking care of their property, their money, even against their will, through things such as conservatorships, power of attorney, where the entity is maintaining this sort of system that is ostensibly for the benefit and for the protection of those that are in some sort of fiduciary relationship with one that is trusted to maintain their property. Where the entity is engaging in this, that has no business and has no interest in what is preserving your, that is worshiping your money and trying to steal it. Okay, while the entity is engaging in surveillance, that is directly rebutting what is the perceived purpose and what is the claimed benefit of, for example, what the Welfare and Institutions Code provides for with regard to establishing mental illness upon having a conservatorship or a power of attorney, where somebody else is able to exercise control over your property. The entity, first of all, is not able, it should and shall not be doing this without your knowledge, without your involvement, and certainly not against your will, because of what the government is proven to be engaging in. The government is targeting American citizens, then creating the illusion of mental illness in order to falsely depict the character that is to serve kidnapping you while they run off with your money and property. Because of this reality, because of the changed landscape, laws that are in place that serve what is now a greater threat than it is a benefit, they shall be changed. And it's for the benefit. This is proving that just because somebody states that you're mentally ill and they have some sort of letters after their name, it does not state that it's gospel. That doesn't mean that it's gospel, and it doesn't mean that they are speaking the truth. You have plenty of people that have been targeted in ways that they contend with. And you may not agree. There are literally, you're listening, demons. These are demons that are absurdly psychotic, and they are very much sensitive and triggered by that. But that's a reality. And this is, I'm not making up the environment where they're stalking me. I'm not making them follow me around in planes and helicopters. I'm not making them obsessive over me while I'm sleeping outside and supposedly, oh, I'm such a bum, but you're all up in my genitalia stalking me outside. You're following me. You're following me around, literally. And you think nobody sees that you are following me, and it's not traffic on the roads and highways. You are following me. These are demons that are delusional. And they're embarrassed because they're proven to be the stalkers that they are. The entities engaging in this pattern of conduct, and they do so while they are engaging in what is stealing. This system serves theft. That's organized crime. Targeting American citizens like myself that they knew a long time ago were a threat to the demons that have been walking around trying to conceal their presence, conceal their presence here on earth, conceal what it is that they are and what they're doing and where they're at and what their names are. This is where an entity is not only seeking to target someone, even if I didn't have $1. Understand, that's why they're stalking me while I'm living outside. And moreover, why am I outside? As a matter of fact, not only am I legally trained, a professional, where the entity was stalking me on the job, interfering with my liberty right to make money and be free of terrorism, but the entity stole my money and my property. They've targeted me in multiple angles in my life. So even when when LAPD, if this weren't a comprehensive system, LAPD gang stalking me on the job as a property manager in LA, I have a house. I have property. I have money. But for the entity acting together in concert, they're working in tandem. I wouldn't be outside under all circumstances, but you're even stalking me outside. And this is the entity that does so with regard to trying to murder you. You think you want to get away with stealing my house. You're going to get away with stealing all my money. And then you're gang stalking me because you want to try to obstruct justice. Even if I didn't have a dollar, understand because of what it is that I'm exposing about them, it's not just that they're criminals, it's that they're demons. The demon possessed, the Nephilim, did not want to be identified. They would have been gang stalking me if I didn't have a dollar to my name. But I have more than a dollar. I have a lot of dollars to my name. Okay? The entity stole my wealth, stole my fortune, stole my money, stole my property. Money and property that they never even told me that belongs to me. Yes, they know exactly who you are. They know exactly who you are. The laws are going to change. The entity is engaged in targeting. The government has no legitimate interest in the first place and taking your money and property. So a corrupt system is what serves the creation of these laws where they can state, oh, okay, well, alcoholism, you're gravely disabled. And when you're mentally ill such that you cannot take care of yourself, that's some ambiguous, very broad description where the entity can gang stalk you, psychologically torture you, like the body of evidence, the study provided by the Ontario police, the terrorists themselves, serving to act in conformity to vague and unconstitutionally overbroad legislation, which is serving for kidnapping and theft of your property. Those laws are going to change. In fact, they're going to be removed altogether because the entity has no legitimate interest because it's engaging in surveillance in the U.S. That's how that system works. That's how you know also, by the way, that the entity is engaged in targeting. And I've also proved that. That's what Arrowhead Regional Medical Center represents. Gang stalking medical professionals. You're engaged in psychological torture and criminal activity. You're doing all manner of harm, in other words. You're not even fit to be in the medical field. You are totally out of your mind, by the way. You're totally incompetent. You have no business in the medical field. While they're practicing psychological torture, doing so while they're wearing these scrubs. Are you kidding me, Satan? They have no business in the medical field. They're working right hand in hand with the Ontario Police Department. Okay? But it doesn't matter, like I stated. This is not a numbers game. The demons were not prepared for this. It's not a numbers game. Okay? It's not a matter of how many of them they have. It's not a matter of that it's whatever position and how many numbers they have and the positions that they hold. I'm going to prosecute you, whoever it is that you think that you are. You're not hiding behind some bench that you're sitting on and some gavel. You're not hiding behind what is legalese. You're not hiding behind what is the some acronym behind your name. You're not hiding behind some position. You're certainly not hiding behind the gang members themselves talking about you're going to call the police. You're going to call the gang members. Okay, you're going to federal prison for that. That's what that's going to end in. And these are laws that are going to replace what are these overly broad and vague laws that are serving kidnapping, okay, serving criminal defamation. That's literally the formula for that. This is what Mike LORENZ is acting in conformity to, that agency. And clearly, you don't even have to have a high school degree or a college degree. Any ignoramus, some light-slinging gargoyle is qualified to engage in it. You can have millions of them, because it's not a numbers game. You're always going to lose that, okay? This is a prosecution that is demon-proof. The P.O.C. is demon-proof. They can't deal with facts. Satan can't deal with facts. Okay? But not only is this serving for prosecution, this is serving for what is changing the laws where this corrupt system operates in order. This is what the purpose of this whole system, it's an extensive system, and this is how it operates. And not only are you going to prosecute, this is serving for the protection of American citizens where you're going to change the laws. So the entity cannot engage in this anymore. You don't have a system that facilitates it. And with regard to the P.O.C. and the precedent that's hereby being established, they can't do it in secret anymore. And you don't have a system in place that enables it, that facilitates it. And that needs to be nationwide. In no corner of the country should anybody be subject to this or have a system in existence where they can be able to engage in it with ease, in secret. Not at all. Under no circumstances. It's currently 9:29 p.m. This is the P.O.C. I would like to state that I go to the fullest extent to maintain it's family friendly with regard to what is the truth about, and absolutely your children should know about the ways in which Satan is honing in on them, targeting them, pedophiles that are demon possessed. The demon possessed literally focus on children. Why? Because of their young, fresh, more innocent than adult spirits, okay? They're newer spirits, if you will. There's a level of innocence that corrupted adults don't have. The demon possessed are literally focused on, and that's why you have sex trafficking amongst children. Those are demons that engage in that. That's specifically a Jezebel spirit. That sexual perversion, that's a demonic spirit that's sexually demented, sexually perverted. That's a Jezebel spirit. The demon possessed focus on, that's getting to the government. You need to understand that. The demon possessed focus on children. And that's because they are while you're engaging in sex acts, you are engaging in what is spiritual activity, in case you did not know that. Okay? This is why they engage in sexually violating children, sexually acting with children. This is what demons do. This is what the gang stalkers in Ontario do. This is what the gang stalkers throughout the state of California do. This is what demons that are celebrities, demons that are politicians, demons that are police officers, demons that are sheriff's deputies, demons that are moms and dads and a part of a community, church members. Oh, they all engage in it. And pay attention, when the entity is listening to something that's very damning, what they're scared of, the entity flies over by plane and helicopter. There's nothing funny about pedophilia, but I find it hilarious when demons are scared about what they have reaped, okay? And that was fear when you hear a demon trying to talk about and attack me physically, or verbally rather, when you're obsessively stalking me. Are you kidding me, Satan? You're so obsessed with me, you stalk me with light. Like you want to affect and be around me so bad. You create supernatural means of touching me. You create supernatural means of sitting around worshiping me. Because that's what they're doing. They're doing it. And their witchcraft failed. And their witchcraft is on a boomerang agenda. It's going right back. Okay? And they're not spiritually protected. They're not covered by Christ Jesus. They're not. They're being targeted for doing what the Lord God said you shall never do. Do not touch. You're talking about touch not. And you're talking about not only are they touching, they're stalking, they're kidnapping, they're defaming. That is blaspheming what it is the Lord God has said. And you're talking about what is upon criminal conduct by a government. Let me show you where the entity is taken off right here. Remember what the entity is doing at Ontario, Airport Inn, where they are taking off while I'm standing in that courtyard area under the fake sun at 10:10 in the morning. And this is the entity that's engaging what is as though they're taking off at the Ontario Town Square. When you are west of the entity acts as though the airport is all over the city of Ontario and they're taking off perpetually. That's the entity, and they're doing so where the entity is providing an ongoing series of emissions. This is an entity that is engaged in pedophilia, targeting children, sexually engaged, sexual engagements, sexual encounters with children, and also not just children, but those that are, first of all, those that are saved by Christ Jesus. You've been saved. You've received the Lord Jesus as your Lord and Savior. You are filled with His Holy Spirit. That's another means of purity. These are demons that are focusing on targeting. And I want to be clear, sexual activity in particular is a way in which the demon-possessed are attacking. And that attack is relevant to what is exchanging demonic spirits. This is why the Bible says, by the way, not to fornicate and not to commit adultery, that you become one flesh with your spouse. Paul, in particular, states that, and I want to be clear, I'm not preaching. I'm just pointing out this is the truth of His word has already spoken to this. And you don't have to go into witchcraft to know what these demons are doing, to understand and just be obedient to what God has already said. When you walk in obedience, you're already protected. Okay? But like I said, Paul does say, if you can avoid being married and stay single, then stay single. Meaning, by stay single, meaning you can go without fornicating, but it's better that a man marry than to burn up with passion, okay? But there's a reason for that, because there is spiritual significance. You become one with someone. You become one with a demon. You become one with someone that's literally honing in and spiritually attacking you. This is Satan that you're fusing your genitalia with. You are a spirit, and then you're fusing with, to be practical with you, you're fusing yourself with a demonic person. And then you are talking about what is exchanging. You're becoming one with what is an entity. And that is making you vulnerable to what is the exchanging of such spirits. This is why, okay? And I'm gonna keep it on the surface like that. But there is a lot of danger with regard to fornication, with regard to promiscuity, with regard to, this is the entity, these are all methods of witchcraft. This is why you have sex trafficking. This is why you have pedophilia. This is why you have rapists. It's sexual. It's not just sexual. It's not somebody that just wants to have sex with you. It's spiritual. It's a demon. It's a demon. Okay? The entity is engaging in this pattern of conduct, and they hone in on children. And you will also witness that. That's going to be exposed with regard to the entity that's targeting me. The entity that engaged in what is obsessing over me, wants to see me in the nude in my home. That's this entity that's stalking me by commercial planes right now. They're engaged in sex trafficking as an entity. They know exactly who I am. This entity's committed sex trafficking. This entity's committed what is fraud, stealing my identity, solicitation of murder, engaging, and they're doing so, admittedly, stalking me everywhere that I'm going by helicopters and planes. This entity is going to be prosecuted. The entity, again, they are not escaping, and it goes even beyond these little gang stalking bums in Ontario. You understand? There are demons that are monitoring me, and they are celebrities. They're celebrities, and they're nothing other than demons. They're vagina monitoring demons engaged in sex trafficking. They're pedophiles. They have sex with minors. You know why? Because they're practicing witchcraft. They're demons. They're perverts. The same perverts that are stalking me in the bathroom, monitoring while they know that my legs are spread apart, knowing that I'm indisposed. They want to be in the same space. They want to be as close to me as they can without literally breaking into the bathroom stall. They charge into that bathroom as an entity that's obsessed with my vagina, stalking and doing so in the environment with the entity that's using planes and helicopters, spending all manner, millions of dollars to keep me under surveillance, including in bathrooms. Those are the demons that have sex with kids. They have sex with kids, and it's spiritually significant. That's why they do it. They do it to spiritually attack those children that have a level of purity. It's like a vampire that wants to suck your blood. It's like a grade of blood that's really rich, if you will. It's very sick, but it's of the devil. That's what that is. And you need to understand, sex crimes like that, that's of the devil. It is of the devil. These are things that come from Satan himself. The spirit of mental illness, psychopathic, these are demons. It's demonic. It comes from what is a demonic spirit. The spirit of sexual violence, that you have a desire to be a pervert. You want to see people in the nude. You want to violate their privacy. You want to follow them around and see and watch them without them knowing it. You want to engage in sexual activity with your family members. You want to engage in sexual activity with minors. You want to violate people and have sex with them outside of their consent. Like, you're specifically gratified by violating someone's right to say no. That's the type of specific sexual circumstance that you look for. That's a demon. Those are demons. Okay? The entities engaging in the pattern, all manner of these sexually motivated crimes, they're demons. And in particular, this pattern of conduct, this criminal system, this is a Jezebel spirit that's operating over a population. This is the Nephilim. All right? And the Nephilim are demons, and they are engaging in what are trying to hide amongst people, human beings, normal people that are not demon possessed. They want to present as sane. They want to present as law-abiding citizens when you're exposing public corruption by the government. They want to present as normal, everyday American society. And clearly, I'm showing you, it is very clear. When you're looking at what is the bigger picture, when you see the pattern of conduct and you see the pattern of conduct in the aggregate, I understand, and it is clear. There is a lot of evidence where you can see there's a problem on its face. When the entity is engaging in flying over the top of my head for 20 minutes, that's very obvious. But the entity is engaging in a pattern of conduct amongst the population, so you will see the multiplicity of faces, one demon after another, one demon that's riding their bike, one demon that's jumping rope, one demon that's sitting there playing music, another demon that's walking their dog, another demon that's engaging what is having a picnic. They're all doing so at the same address. Let's just use one address at the Ontario Town Square. They're doing so under what is a fake sun. Multiplicity of faces, same pattern, while the entity is maintaining what is clearly deviating from the operations that are already proven to be targeting. So that's the sharing presence as a population. Now I'm going from prosecuting the government, who's already shown to be targeting, and I've already proved the government is targeting with the people. The multiplicity of faces, they'll include kids, because that's not a distraction. They're going off, and those are cockroaches. They're little activity creators. The entities engaged in what is the P.O.C. amongst the multiplicity of faces, you'll see the same pattern of conduct. They're present, whether they're jumping rope, whether they're riding their bike, whether they're standing there talking on their phone, whether they're sitting there just staring at their phone, while they're sitting there while their dog is sniffing the bushes, while they're sitting there taking pictures, holding up a camcorder, wearing costumes, pushing a stroller, doing sit-ups, talking on the phone, playing music. They're doing so under a fake sun. They're doing so while the entity is maintaining surveillance by the gang stalking police department. You know that angle of the case. You're looking at the multiplicity, that population. They do it together. The entity is doing that while they are maintaining psychological torture tactics. That same duo is engaged in criminal summoning. And you're able to look at how that entity is, and now I'm getting to analyzing the government's tactics, and that's what you're going to pay attention to. That's what that demon said tonight. This is mindful of the whole purpose of why they're going to federal prison. They being the gang stalking police departments. These are terrorists. You're going to federal prison. The very audible activity that came out of his mouth. That's exactly how the system is designed. And you are a whole gargoyle. You are a whole entire stalker. Are you kidding me? You're going to federal prison. Okay? This is what you document, though. You have to document a pattern of conduct, and you don't have to do what I've done. What I have done is a matter of establishing precedent, because when you are proving that which is impossible to prove, says Satan, then you should be able to, and you necessarily need to, have what is an extensive body of evidence. And you can. When they are stalking, there's no way that I would have the size and the body of evidence at the level that I would if I was making it up. There is nothing normal. And the entity engaged in that abnormality over and over and over again does not make it normal. To engage in the supernatural over and over and over again will never make it normal. To engage in what is rising and setting the fake sun, that's to the exclusion of you who are in Florida. When are you having a sunny day? When the entity keeps the one sun over me in Ontario, California. Huh? When are you doing that? Okay, with regard to nature, the natural environment, that's where you're getting to. A whole society that is, in fact, obsessed with you and stalking you and plotting your murder, pursuant to a whole comprehensive system that is designed to facilitate that, where you see these little high school graduates stalking you, using the city and the county's resources, driving around in vehicles given to them, distributed by the government, while they're engaged in surveillance. And they can't even spell Constitution. They can't even spell it, let alone abide by it. And they certainly have no authority under it. This is an entity that does that. And so you have this little peon that's talking about, on the one side, you're a whole demon stalking with impossible light. I need to put this on the internet. So right now I'm going to upload it right now. It's currently 9:42 p.m. You're stalking in the specific environment, and then also at the same time, so this is the demon, in other words, that you're hearing, oh, you B, oh, you gap, you got a gap, you have a gap in your teeth, or whatever gapped. I'm trying to say it without the cuss words. This is the automatic, this is what you jump to, Satan, because you're embarrassed that you're monitoring my vagina and you're obsessed with me. You're obsessed with my essence. You're obsessed with my beauty. That's what you're focusing in on. You love my gap, my charming, you love it. You're stalking me. You're stalking me. You're even enamored, even though you hate it, but you're even enamored with the way that I'm prosecuting you because of spiritual power that you're intoxicated by while you're obsessed with me. That's the reality. It's not a compliment, but that's the reality, though. That's a stalker. A stalker that is empowered with engaging in terrorism by virtue of that evidence. You heard it. I'm going to call the police while you're stalking. Really? Really? That's what's being deported out of this country. That's exactly what's getting deported out of here. You have a level of haughtiness with regard to criminal conduct. That's exactly why they're being disbanded. It is their fault for this criminal activity that they share in. They are gang members. They are the worst type of gangs. The worst ever. They're worse than the Crips and the Bloods. They murder in plain sight, and the court upholds it. The court comes up with some sort of legal reasoning to support murder. They're the worst type of gang. And it's criminal surveillance. It's 9:44 p.m. This is P.O.C. and it's Providence. I'm glad that happened. The entity, Sarah's Regis Group, has been engaged in stalking. I'm going to go ahead and recite this psychopath's license plate again. He's engaged in targeting me on behalf of the Ontario Police Department in furtherance of murder. He is a co-conspirator of murder that is threatening to engage in what is obstruction of justice. Threatening to kidnap you is what is behind stating, I'm going to call the cops that are gang members. Okay? He's engaged in what is obstruction of justice pursuant to federal stalking and furtherance of murder, while he's stating out of his mouth, while he is monitoring, while he is stating, I'm going to call the cops, while you are violating no law, while you are a whole delusional psychopath engaging in what is surveillance, which is exposing the whole illusion of the system. They're not even on private property, but that's going to be dealt with in court. I'm going to prosecute Sarah's Regis. I'm going to prosecute Sarah's Regis Group. And I'm going to prosecute the government. Because based on the exploitation of the Constitution, the entities engaging, I'm going to call the police because you're on my property while they're gang stalking you. And I'm not on your property when I'm standing on the sidewalk. But you're engaged in the P.O.C. And but for me documenting you, you wouldn't even be saying anything. Because I don't know that you're targeting me. And so you don't know that I'm documenting you. But you do know. And I want to be clear, I'm documenting you. So you see me put the camera in the demon's face. I'm going to do that. I'm going to embarrass you and I'm going to prosecute you. I want them to see the unattractive demon that's obsessed with me and is trying to attack my looks that they're obsessed with. Make that make sense. Make it make sense because you can't. You're stalking. Nobody would even hear you if you were not stalking. You're stalking under all circumstances. Okay, so I just want to make sure that that's clear. Don't ever be distracted by Satan, because I'm not. Don't be distracted by Satan. And I know what Satan's triggered by. Satan's triggered because he's being embarrassed. And you're going to continue to be embarrassed. And you're going to be really embarrassed when you have a criminal record. Focusing on how obsessed you are with Erica Spencer's vagina. You're going to forever be embarrassed. That's what I'm here for. I'm here to expose you. I'm going to humiliate you while you target people. This is what they've been doing to American citizens for decades. Oh, you call this a ritual? Well, I call it for the glory of God. I'm going to humiliate you while I prosecute you in Jesus' name. I'm going to prosecute you. Okay? So I do want to state that forgive me for the profanity while I'm dealing with the demon. Forgive me for the profanity, though, but I do go to the extent because I want as many people as possible to hear and witness what is Satan, because you need to be made aware of the illusions that Satan is going to present to you. It's going to become more and more powerful, more and more deceptive. It is proven to you. You're witnessing an example of it through the whole fake environment that the demons are stalking me in. The specific environment is evidence to you regarding illusions, the illusions of the natural environment, the whole illusion with regard to the operation of this corrupt government. They tell you things such as, it's climate change. They're lying to you. That's not even the natural environment. What does a climate change have to do with necessarily more than one sun, in other words, that's remaining over OVITT Family Community Library and what's over them in Dallas, Texas? Because it's not the same object. It couldn't be. It never moves from being over here, over me in Ontario, over whatever venue that I'm at. So what does that have to do with climate control? They're lying to you. What does that have to do with climate control when it sits over one building all day long? What does that have to do with climate control? They're lying, and they're bad liars. These are illusions, okay? Satan is going to continuously present what are illusions to deceive, and many people are going to fall for it. Many people are going to fall for it. And unfortunately, you have a responsibility for your own soul to save yourself. And by save yourself, I mean, if you don't know scripture, if you don't know what time it is, and the Bible tells us what's going to happen in the last days, about what the enemy is going to do. The Nephilim are here. You have been warned. You've been put on alert. You have a responsibility, and you can't blame anybody for the loss of your soul. Ignorance is not an excuse. It's not a defense in court, and it's not an excuse before Christ Jesus, whom before we are all going to stand and give an account. So I just want to be clear. The ability to see through the illusion, that is wisdom that comes from Christ Jesus himself. It's not in a tarot card reading. It is not in crystals. It's not in being a good person. It's not in trying to do the right thing all the time. These are all, I want to be clear, various means of what is falling short. The Lord God has said what the standard is, and he's going to ask, what did you do with my son? What did you do with my son, Christ Jesus? He's coming back, and he's coming back in judgment, and he has given so many warnings. Man is going to be without excuse. So I want to make sure that that's clear. But as an aside, I want to also state that with regard to the profanity that you're witnessing, that you're listening to, with regard to the encounter of what is a demon, a hostile demon, and you're looking at me deal with firepower, a demon, okay? But this is the pattern of conduct. Outside of what is the P.O.C, I am always making sure, and it is beneficial, children do need to know that Satan is focused on their genitalia. Now, that's the way that you put that to a child, that's between you and your household, but that is very much, Satan is out here trying to sexually mature your child. Satan is out here trying to corrupt them and have them familiar with all manner of homosexuality and get them acquainted with things that they don't need to know anything about at 7 years old. Okay, it is very much imperative that you are aware of, and that's the vitality of what is being aware of what's going on in this country, what's going on in the world, what is going on in the world, with regard to what is the agenda to get to your kids. This is why I'm encountering, the absurdity of the mental illness that I'm acquainted with by 19-year-olds. They're kids. First of all, you're stalking me. I'm an adult. You're a teenager. Why aren't you somewhere playing a video game? Why aren't you somewhere like studying or doing something fun and creative? They're demons and they're stalking. They're obsessively stalking and monitoring. It's sad. Their minds are already gone. Satan is going after your kids. He's got the entire family. This is a whole society of dead people. It's the Nephilim. And they are attacking those that they are seeking to have a supply of. They don't not only want my money, all right, and my property, they want to spiritually feed off of me, if you will. They want to spiritually feed off of you, those who know Christ Jesus in particular. And they are targeting, you are all of them, whether you know Christ Jesus or not. You're subject to what is being targeted by this very system. This is surveillance, and anybody can be subject to this sort of targeting. That's the threat to American citizens. That's the constitutional and human right that everybody maintains, regardless of whether you know Christ or not. Okay, this is even benefiting the demon possessed, but it's not going to benefit them with regard to me prosecuting you, targeting me. But those that are outside of California, I'm not prosecuting you per se. I'm not prosecuting you per se. But this is speaking to the existence of the law where the government's impropriety is what governs, because the government has no authority to engage in surveillance. Okay, so this is speaking to what is applying to everyone. Okay, everyone with regard to the law. All right, but other than that, I do want to just speak to a license 9TRS934. Again, this is the third party that's speaking to the gang members that are stalking me at the Ontario Town Square, flying over me and stalking me together, the Ontario Police Department. This is the entity that's engaging in this gang violence, targeting a woman, stalking a woman together, and they are demons alike. And that is how that system operates. This is speaking to the implosion of that system, the exposure of that system. And I do want to address that there are very few occasions where you've heard me, and I've documented because this is real life. I'm not going to, this is real life, and it's worse. Understand, it's been worse for American citizens that didn't make it. They're dead. They're 6 feet under already. And they weren't maintaining real-time evidence about how the government was targeting them. Okay? I'm doing this because, first of all, it's reality. It's real life. This is real life. This is really happening. And this is also my advocacy on behalf of other American citizens that don't have a voice regarding what they are subject to. And the entities doing this to me, it's even worse to understand. It would be even worse with regard to not holding up a camera and protecting yourself and putting it on the internet and protecting yourself and proving that the government is doing what it is that you're alleging. While the entities engage in that, you're witnessing what is real life. And so that's what's behind what is, again, what I am encountering, a demon that's embarrassed, and you're yelling out profanity, and it's nothing other. I'm holding up a mirror. You're talking about your mom. You're talking about your girlfriend, your baby mom. You're talking about yourself because you're out here stalking me, and that's exactly it. So I just want to address that with regard to that profanity. But it is under all circumstances relevant for not profanity, but relevant for what is what people of all ages, and that's what I go for because first of all, the Lord God has called us to holiness. But second of all, because this is for the masses. It's for the masses. People of all ages, whoever it is that the Lord God is speaking to. And I know that it's going to find you, whoever you are. Whoever you are. He knows who you are. I'm not concerned about that. It's going to reach you. All you have to do is be obedient to what God has told you to do, and he will do the rest. So whoever it is, whoever you are, you will get the message that you need to get. Okay, and so that's also why it's important, and that's also why it is very rare with regard to the profanity that you heard tonight, because I maintain deliberately, also because of a matter of professionalism, but also with regard to who it is that I do represent, and it is Christ Jesus, and you're witnessing somebody who is walking with Christ, and I'm also dealing with Satan himself. So I'm dealing with demons. I am dealing with demons who are not going to stop an investigation. You certainly are not going to intimidate me, and you're not going to silence me. In fact, you make it worse for yourself. They don't understand how they have been encountering the person who is I'm telling you what's going to happen to you, and they think that it's a game, and they're going to live that reality. That's what's happening. That's what's happening. So this is the entity that's engaged in that. The entity has been engaged in trying to bully American citizens, trying to bully them into circumstances, trying to bully them into injustice. And it's just not going to happen. It's not going to happen. Okay. So it's currently 9:55 p.m. This is P.O.C. License plate 8VCW392. That's conspiracy to commit murder by a demon. That's molesting me with impossible light, perfectly aimed with regard to crossing paths while the demons are stalking you in what is impossible light activity. That's a sex offense. That's the entity that's gang stalking in the parking garage with the demon that's threatening to call the gang members of the Ontario Police, with whom license 9LSE102 commits sexual assault and battery, as conspiring murder, stalking as a whole population of demons. A turn signals light activity in the specific environment. The entity just engaged in what is whooping down and stalking at the moment that I walk off of this property. The entity is not engaged in traffic, it's surveillance. That's a psychopath. Okay? That's the fake moon over my head. This is the parking garage where this demon is engaging in what is the audible activity of the domestic terrorists that are going to federal prison for criminal summoning with the gang members of the Ontario Police Department. That's the entity that's threatening your life. Engage in psychopathic conduct, stalking with light in parking garages where you have this absurd light activity. This is the entity, I want to be clear. Atif El-Kadi and everybody else on that Ontario executive team are conspiring your murder with the gang stalking demons who are stalking with light, exhibiting mental illness. No street lamp is causing light to appear on the roof on the inside of this parking garage while they're stalking you as a population who are absurdly obsessed with your genitalia, stalking you day and night, and then engage in what is harassment because they're being embarrassed as the stalkers that they are. Okay? That's the entity. That's it right there. This is stalking, aiming light, psychopathic conduct. That's even what's doing in here. And I'm going to prosecute Sarah's Regis Group. Sarah's Regis Group is a facility. This is another demon stalking. There's not a coincidence. That's the method of light, parking garage, stalking, and the path. That's P.O.C. Demon that speaks as an entity. That's the demon that's conspiring your murder. That's the demon you're going to prosecute. And that mental illness is exhibited through that malicious audible activity, calling you names, insulting you, threatening to call the gang members of the Ontario Police. That's going to be used to diagnose mental illness. It's psychopathic and antisocial conduct while they conspire your murder. This is P.O.C. It is currently 11:05 p.m. This demon is coming over here monitoring with this one that I'm capturing in the parking lot, stalking with impossible light activity. They're monitoring together while I'm going to document this demon, and this is the gang stalker of Downtown Ontario Luxury Apartments, license 8V Charlie 907. Gang stalking with this Asian female, license 8CET834. Doing so while the entity, here's my shadow back here, and the entity, here's my shadow right here, three of them. This is the gang stalker of Downtown Ontario Luxury Apartments. That's the same demon that's going to prison. That's not a coincidence. Gang stalking with this third party, not helping her, incriminating. This is deportation as well. This is deportation. She's engaged in surveillance in the parking lot. That's P.O.C. He is literally stalking from place to place on behalf of Mike LORENZ, that agency. This is, I want to be clear, has nothing to do with the parking garage, follows me outside, is engaged in monitoring with the P.O.C. These are the demons engaging. Oh, she's a bum, she's a B, while he's stalking. I want to be clear, just like I stated he was, which you can identify through the impossible light activity. This is the demon that stalks me from the library in concert with the entity that's maintaining ongoing surveillance. That's a gangster. I was an Asian female. That's deportation. I got her license plate, and this is the prosecution of Sarah's Regis. The gang stalking security guards, conspiring murder. That's, again, courtesy patrol. That's engaging in surveillance, the P.O.C. 1, 2, 3 shadows. This is light activity, and this is ongoing massive light activity. This is impossible light activity. The entity is monitoring with these demons that are pacing, and so is ARCO, so is Chevron. License ABCC 907, you're seeing how this inexplicable presence in the path. While I'm walking down the street, this is the demon that's targeting. While I'm going to target this, going to document this demon that's targeting by stalking in the parking lot, she's maintaining light in conformity to that P.O.C. where the entity is stalking with the airport that's hovering over the Ontario Town Square. This is the demon that's going to prison. All right, this is the entity that's stalking. I'm in the parking lot while I was standing on the sidewalk as well, stalking, exhibiting severe mental illness in doing so. That's P.O.C. Alrighty, this is Title 18, and this is mental illness while the demons are stalking with light. This is what he was doing in the parking garage, stalking with light. And this is a demon that's going out of his way, pursuing me in the parking lot while he is stalking in the path on behalf of the government. This is severely deranged behavior, and it's going to be the prosecution of Sarah's Regis Group as well, including the security company. All right, that's P.O.C. There's no security underway where you're chasing me down in a parking lot or I'm walking around and you're engaging in what is stalking, ominous stalking, and ongoing harassment by aiming your phone and your camera. Just want to be clear on that. It is currently, again, 11:10 p.m. This is Courtesy Patrol. They have an identity, a number. Where is it? ABCC 907. I'm going to document them. They're loose of a license when you're engaged in security. They're going to lose that licensure. This is ongoing harassment by the security company, engaging in surveillance, coming over here and targeting me in the parking lot, where the entity's engaging with stalking me with that demon that's in the parking garage. So he comes out, again, the entity that's monitoring is monitoring the evidence. This is very clear targeting as well. The entity has the fake sun over this apartment building from sunrise until sunset. The demon possessed are residing there, gang stalking as a corrupt security company, and is exhibiting. Now he's overtly being the demon that he was at the outset. Calling names isn't a distraction. The more that I speak the truth, the more that Satan shows his true character. Silently coming and following me, coming from a distance to follow me, that's literally stalking, and doing so on behalf of the state. That's monitoring me with him while he comes and engages in what is stalking. That was an Asian woman in that van. That's where deportation is very likely to apply. These are demons that are all stalking all together, however. I just want to be clear, not a word spoken. Stalking, coming and following me, coming around and monitoring with that woman where they're monitoring my evidence, monitoring me, knowing that I'm going to go document this third party. They're still monitoring, but I want to be clear, when you're looking at clear stalking conduct, that inexplicable conduct, he's coming here, following while I'm documenting, doing so while he was stalking the entire time. And it's clearly going out of his way to follow me into this parking lot and sit here and stare and aim his phone. This is mental illness by the psychopathic conduct. That's stalking with light, holding up a cell phone with the light on it, stalking in that security vehicle with the method of light activity, in that parking garage where the entity was stalking by the airport. As you can see, he had the vehicle lights on the top of that car, stalking with light in the path. That's mental illness. That's a serial killer. That's a psychopath. That's a stalker. Those are the demon possessed, and they all share that mental illness. And the gang stalking police department is being disbanded for it. They are the cause for this corruption, and they are going to be disbanded. This is P.O.C. It is currently 11:12 p.m. That's a hostile demon, okay, who's listening to the truth about both being obsessed with my vagina, embarrassed by everything that was published on the internet. That's why he's chasing me down in the parking lot, monitoring me with the demon that's in this parking lot, very likely a gang stalking immigrant subject to deportation, while he incriminates her, going to be next to her, which is nothing other than crossing a path, but doing so while you are following me while I'm in the parking lot and just standing there silently with your phone aimed on me. It is equally probative with regard to the impossible light that was on the ceiling on the side of that parking garage. They don't have to say a word, but every word that they speak is also going to incriminate them. It is currently 11:13 p.m. These are the demons that are going to federal prison for kidnapping with the Ontario police. This is them. You're looking at the true character. They're going to federal prison. They are the domestic enemies that are here, homegrown in the United States, and they're being deported. They're going to prison, and they are going to be labeled as the terrorists that they are. P.O.C.